Welcome everybody to the latest episode of the Critical Hustle Happy Hour, and I stuttered, but we do this live, so I can't go back. Anyway, we're here now. We're going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, which is athletics. I am not a parent, so it's not that close, but I was a student athlete, so I understand a lot of the thought process. Since this is a case for kids, I'm not going to ask what anybody is sipping on, but I will let you know that I'm wearing my official Timberwolves throwback of Kevin Garnett because I'm representing high school players. So each week I'm going to try something different. So I'm going to introduce my guest this time and let it go from there. So returning back for a second appearance, hailing all the way from New Orleans at the height of mother, comedian, all around basketball player who I have yet to play, but I don't think I would win because I am 5'6" and she is definitely not. So here she is, Ashley B.
What up? You can say
Ashley,
I ain't tripping.
I didn't really want to because I might have been too tall or too short. I wasn't really sure, so I was
Go
like
ahead,
six
go
two.
ahead and go with what you thought it was.
I was gonna say 6'2".
That's how tall I am.
Okay, cool. 6'2" in flats, 7'1" in heels. Just in
Yes.
case you're out there, she's ready for you. Also joining us on this lovely, 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 lovely Friday as winter starts to hit most people is my brother-in-law. I'm just be real with you. Just go there. I'm gonna introduce him as he put himself up here, but I've never called him this in my life. But he is we're gonna say former starting run. I was about to call you running back. My bad. Linebacker, middle linebacker,
Mm.
attacking linebacker, aggressive young man. We call him J Mo. I know him as 33 because I know everybody by their number except for Ashley. So here you go.
41.
What's good? What's good?
41? Oh, you was Dirk Nowitzki? You was getting your Dirk on? So, well, let's start. I'm gonna start here. Why 41? Like,
That's with I don't know how they do in all the sports, but I noticed like in football, like all your like linemen, the big dudes, they have bigger numbers. And it's the same thing for basketball.
see, I was cheated. My coach, I walked in, and I'm like, yeah, I want like 58, 56. I'm thinking of all the 50s. I can get this jersey and wear it. I can get Willie McGee. I'm thinking about everybody's jersey. He turns around and hands me a 53. I was like, who wears 53?
Uh-uh.
It took me like all of a year to think about it. I was like, well, my mom was born in 53, so that's pretty cool. And then they just stuck with me. So now, like, 53 is my favorite number. So I respect that. But it sucks when you get handed a number and you have to like accept it. You're like, well, can I play somebody for their number? Can I do something?
I think my number didn't work with me because I'm tall. I was skinny, but when I was like real skinny, like 6'2", a buck 65. That one, that 41 couldn't. It just made me look like a stick.
Did you ever feel like you need to have a one-legged jumper? Like you just be like, I'm gonna take my leg up on this jump shot, a la Dirk.
You gotta copy Dirk game. You gotta get Dirk.
My jumper game ain't come till later. I didn't start playing ball till like I was in high school. So,
but that's perfect. That's perfect. All right, adding one more TSU alumni in here, hailing all the way from we got everybody here. This is great. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna go. There's two Jasons coming, everybody. I'm gonna just say that. There's two Jasons coming. I'm gonna go to the first Jason that popped up. This is Jason W., who is also a former pitcher and outfielder for Texas Southern University.
How y'all doing?
What's good? What's good?
Oh, not bad, man. Pleasure.
Where are you?
I'm actually outside.
Oh, okay. I was
So,
like, it's really bright where you are. I'm like,
so okay. Gerard, I know you've been over here, so excuse me, y'all. We got some lights, man, so that's why it's a little bright back there. Those hanging lights.
Okay, that makes way more sense. All right, cool. So I got to add one more person in here, and then we can get really started into the show. Jason, I'm gonna ask you a question in a minute as far as what was your baseball number because I have no idea.
All right.
Next person I'm gonna bring in is a friend of mine from high school. I lead in with this always because he has like the greatest story for me ever in sports. Like it's just wonderful. But I'm gonna give it to him as number 52 because as I said, I was 53 and he came in at 52, and that's even interesting in itself. But Jason Stewart, Welcome to the Critical Hustle Happy Hour.
Well, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good evening, man. What's happening?
So,
a little bit looks like you got a cigar going on. I'm a little bit jealous.
Hey, man, it's a Friday evening, celebrating fraternity, man. So just kind of hanging out and checking it out.
All right. I ain't mad at that.
Here's the craziest part. I've noticed everything in it. I'm just looking at back, and I was like, Jason has his high school football jersey.
Yeah.
Like I see it, and I'm like, man, you know how bad I really been wanting to find my jersey. Anyway, so I don't know whose phone. Okay, but so check it out, guys. The reason why I wanted to do this show in general was because, as we know, high school athletics, middle school, it's way crazier now. I feel like it's way crazier than when we were growing up. Maybe these things were going on, but I didn't know. Like, I don't even remember Compton having a Pop Warner team because I couldn't find it. So I actually didn't play any sports. I didn't play any physical, like football, until high school. My first football game was my sophomore year. So, like, I didn't have any of that. I know, Jason, I was going to ask you, did you play at Rosecrans Park?
No. I'm similar. I just kind of grew up in the streets playing, and that's it.
Okay. All right. I knew you were in Gardena, so I was like, everybody I know, if you were in Compton or Gardena, you played at Rosecrans. But, all you guys played college sports. Out of high school, we're high school athletes as well. And what I wanted to do this show around was really talking about the mindset that you have going, in high school, how you feel and where you think you're going to go as far as college and how that approach goes. I know, like, my mom was the most supportive mom I think you could have for a college sport. I mean, for high school sports. She came to every game, but she didn't really know, like, well, maybe I need to get him tapes, or maybe I need to do this and get it here. A lot of what we thought, I didn't even think about playing college sports, to be honest with you, was kind of on our coaches. And even then, we didn't know what the coaches were doing. Like, I got a recruiting letter from the University of San Diego after my senior year, and I was surprised to the point I was driving around. Hey, look at this. They want me to come play. Do they know I'm 5'6"? They are crazy. I remember talking to the coach and being like, let me just say I'm 5'6" and I play at 205. He was like, no problem. Our defensive tackle's 5'6", 270. I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
That's 60 more. Listen, bro. I'm not going to the league. What am I gonna do with all that extra weight once all this is over with? So, but thinking back about it now, had I have had the understanding I have now, I probably would have been like, okay, I'm gonna see how many places I can get an offer. Who's gonna give me the most money and actually think about going to college? Because I didn't want to play college football, but I did want to get an education. And my biggest concern was, how is my mom going to afford for me to go to college and all those things? And I didn't know a lot about financial aid or any of that. So it was kind of one of those weird places of being like, well, maybe I wanted to try and go to Prairie View because I saw in the Jet magazine, they hadn't won a game in 60 years. I was like, boom, I can go there, get a scholarship. They ain't going to have to see me play. I'm going to just ride that out for 4 years and be cool. I remember talking to our principal. His son played tight end for Azusa Pacific. I remember having a deep debated discussion about, look, you should just go tell them that I'm being recruited by the University of San Diego and I'm willing to come here and play, but I need to see if there's going to be a scholarship. Like, I was fully trying to negotiate my way into it, knowing I didn't want to play, but I was like, I could redshirt, get myself in the best possible shape, and worst case scenario, not get myself killed. Needless to say, didn't do any of the above, but I wanted to get that story out the way quick because, like I said, you guys each have your own stories, and I'm familiar with most of them. But I guess what I'll start with is kind of tell me who you guys were in high school. Like, what kind of athletes were you? Ashley, I'm going to start with you because you're the only lady on here, and I should do that first.
How y'all know I'm a lady? I'm just playing. Let's see. The way I got started playing ball was I was 6'2" since I was like in second grade. I don't know. I was always telling some people, I was just like, what we gonna do with this? My dad played ball in college, so he was like, I'm gonna teach you the game. And I was like, but I don't want to. I want to watch Dragon Ball Z and read comic books. And he was like, nah, So I guess after, like, my mama tried to make me be a model. And I was like, nah, I'm good with that. And so my dad was like, we have to do something with you. So he started taking me in the yard. We had a goal. I would play around, like, because I was the only girl. There was very few girls in my neighborhood. So I would play just so that I could be outside. I would just play around with the dudes, play ball, whatever. But then I started realizing, like, I had, it felt good to block somebody's shot and scream in their face and stuff like that. So I just, I kept with it. And I mean, I didn't seriously play ball until I got to high school. And like my first year of high school, they had like AAU coaches would come and be like, they would have multiple AAU teams be like, come play for me. So I played for 2 AAU teams in high school. And I wasn't like a serious, like, ball is my life or whatever. It was just something to do. Get out the house. I don't have to be up under my parents. It felt good to push people around and block shots. And I was aggressive. I was an aggressive person. So that's what basketball was for me. And, once I started getting recruited, I was like, so go to college, I guess. So it wasn't something that was just on my mind. Like, I just want to be, I want hoop. I want to play ball. Ball is my life. I didn't walk around with a ball in my hand. Like, it just kind of, I was a girl and I was tall. I was taller than all the dudes in high school. So.
Yeah. That sounds good to me. I wish I was that tall.
Wish I was tall, man, too.
That's it. I mean, like we would lose games and girls would be crying and I'm like, I'm just gonna get something to eat. I don't. But the next one, I don't know, nigga.
Yeah.
What about you, J-Mo? How about you? High school? Like, what kind of athlete were you? Like, what were you thinking in high school about your football career?
Man, coming through a program like North Shore, man, I thought, man, I had the world ahead, bro. Like, now that I look up, man, it's so crazy. I had a little picture, a little newspaper. I got it framed and everything. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I really dropped this pic too, though. So I mean, that's crazy. But nah, I mean, from just the program North Shore, man, being a 3-year starter, I thought I was gonna come out getting a lot of like recruiting, but kind of being undersized because I was kind of like right at 6 feet, a linebacker. I was able to play all 3 in 3 different years, starting in North Shore, but I only got recruited from, like, say for instance, Southeastern, Louisiana, and Texas Southern. I had a couple offers. I went to play like some camps and stuff like that. I got a lot of attention, but just because my size, like I went to Alabama camp, and they was like, "Man, you good, but you short. Linebackers here, but your height, And I was linebackers like 6'2", 6'3", 6'5". I'm like, damn, shit. I wish I was tall, like because if I had that height, then I could have easily. It would have been a lot easy, But just having that mindset though, like, because North Shore, it installed a mentality, like a work ethic. If you carried it over to the next level, then the path is made. You know what I'm saying? So it's all just having a mindset, And if you're able to hold on to that mindset and be consistent throughout, then the process will be, a lot easier. But that was my mindset coming out of high school, though.
What about you, Jason Washington? Like, as far as baseball went for you? Well, you played baseball and football in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Honestly, baseball wasn't my first choice when I was younger. I loved football. I loved everything about football. I grew up in the country, essentially, and so my thing was I always wanted to play with the bigger kids. And so when I played with them, that's kind of what drove me to have like the grit and fight and want to feel like I can play with them and they let me play. And so it was just like one of those mentalities of like I'm not gonna quit. You can hit me hard, but I'm still coming. It wasn't until I think I was about 6 years old maybe 6 years old, 7 years old, that I was introduced to baseball. And I just kind of got introduced to it because my older brother played it. And I didn't really know a whole lot about it. And when I did learn, and, I happened to have the ability to throw the ball well. And so that's kind of what kept me going with baseball. And then I got to learn how to hit. But it was just more desire to looking up to other people that reason why I got into sports. And so that's what kind of kept me. And I just continued from there. And once I learned how to play and what the game actually was, it just kind of, it was one of those things I couldn't get enough of it.
What about you, Jason Stewart?
Yeah, I appreciate it. When I think about it, I think what turned me on, I grew up in LA, and so the Lakers was big back then with Magic Johnson and those dudes. So my family just used to gather to watch games. And you guys know, I mean, if any of you guys got little kids, like whatever is exciting in the house, whatever you into, that's what they're gonna be into. And so I was there. That's what my family was doing. So I loved it. It just came apart of me, and fortunately our team was winning back in the 80s, so it was easy. That was my start. And then from there, I think what got a hold of me, kind of maybe similar to Washington, is that, and I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I think, I don't know. I think sometimes hard times, like when we have stuff inside of us that pushes us, is good for that time, but then later on it eats you up. So, for example, what I remember about growing up, and maybe I'm telling on myself, but I graduated in 95. And me growing up, I remember going into high school, that was 91, 92, around the Rodney King riots, all that stuff was going on. But what I remember was every boy, every young person wants to fit in wherever they go, and middle school is a really hard time. And for what happened for me is that at that time, all the light-skinned dudes was getting all the attention, all the time. And y'all know right now, look, I didn't fix my lights. I'm a dark-skinned brother. I got, but them cats was getting all the attention from all the girls, and they'd be singing, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, screw that. Girls were trying to give me the time of day. So basketball was like my equivalent. When you stepped on that floor with me, it didn't matter what you looked like. It didn't matter what was going on. And God forbid you bring your girlfriend to the court, because now I'm really about to act up. And that's, I mean, like I said, it's probably a bad motivation, but that's what happened for me. And I started just realizing that I could become equal to anybody, just kind of with more effort and more determination. And that's kind of like just how it happened. And so when I went into high school, I had a certain level of motivation, but at the same time, again, I think that I was an accolades-driven type of a person. So, like, when my grandmother's praising Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and she's praising, Magic Johnson, all these guys, I want to be like them, and I want to be able to buy my grandma a house, and I wanted to do all these different things. So I did have some levels of motivation to push me to try to be as best as I could be. Now, genetically, I, am what I am. I'm 6 feet with the shoes on. I can't help my genetics, but I have motivation that really. And a faith. I can't take away from my faith in God. Hard times allow me to kind of push through some stuff. So,
okay. Yeah, I mean, so the cool part about like each and every one of you guys' stories is they're different, but they're the same. Kind of like at a base point of it, the introduction to the sport in general. So it's not necessarily falling in love with something immediately, but it's kind of like the acceptance that comes into it. Because even my experience again was just high school, but it was, you kind of get motivated by knowing that your family is there and they're out to see you, like they're taking this time to pay attention to you in this specific moment. This is where it is. And to Jason's point, yeah, you really go out there, at least from a football standpoint. My thought was, I can't get hurt and lay on the ground because my mom is going to worry to death, and I can't do it. So no matter what hit, no matter what happened, I was popping up. I might have been completely concussed many times, but I was like, just get on your feet, get back in the huddle, figure it out. You'll be all right. Rub some dirt on it. That old 90s thing. So not to even put Jason out there, but I'm glad Jason's here, because one thing is he was part of the group for me that as a younger guy, I graduated in 97, since he put the years out there. So like I looked up to them. Like coming into high school, you just sit there and you look, and we went to a small high school, so it wasn't a lot of people, and then a small high school with a smaller amount for black males. So you kind of had this thing. And Jason, I don't know if I ever told you this, but he gave me probably the best advice that I've used to this day. And it was just random on the basketball court shooting around, because I was a team manager for basketball, because again, 5'6" and fat, I was a lineman. I was not doing suicides, but But he had told me, he said, no matter what you do, somebody's always watching you. So make sure you carry yourself in a certain way. And I'll say this: as long as I've known Jason, he's always carried himself as a person that you can look at and respect, hard work and ethic. No, I'll let him get more into the story later on, but I can tell you that
Appreciate
personally, I probably don't know anybody that has been as determined. I'll throw this portion of the story out, and I'm gonna start with you and Jason. Is when they graduated from high school, him and two of his friends, all guys I look at to like big brothers, decided that they could have all got scholarships to smaller schools. I guarantee they could have walked and got a scholarship there. They all three decided to go to the University of Arizona and walk on. And what I have learned later is they all decided to pay out of state tuition, which again is more so betting on yourself than any other thing that you could do. And all three of them actually walked on in their respective sports. Jason has more of a story to it, and I do want him to tell that. But I know that the other two walked on to the football team and made the team. My senior year, I went to go visit them, and the craziest part about it is imagine being a 17-year-old kid who just got his first letter of like, I don't really want to go do this. You guys are way better than me, and I don't know what to expect. Walking through the Pac-10 at that time, their locker room for football and the weight room, and I was like, you know what? I'm about. If I get this country, I'm going. I don't know what the University of San Diego has to offer, but I'm leaving because it just felt like this really big, humongous experience, and I didn't want to miss it. So I do want to start with Jason on this one. Like, tell your story on the Arizona story. I'll just call it that.
Yeah. So, I mean, really very, very respectable panel that we have here, audience folks. And my story, I think, is just humble. I graduated class of 17 kids, like, Jerron kind of mentioned, but I just had a lot of faith, a lot of hope. And so, the Arizona story, as he calls it, is, in high school, my high school coach didn't really, I wouldn't say that he didn't like me, but he was definitely trying to play other dudes ahead of me. And he wasn't the dude that I started with. So I had three different coaches in my high school career. And when the new guy came in, or the last coach that I had, he was trying to play other guys. That said, I wasn't getting ready to get noticed out of my high school. And so my mom had wrote a letter to Coach Olson, Lute Olson, who just passed away. If you know anything about hoops, when he's a Hall of Fame coach, lots of respect and love for him. But he just passed away, and she wrote a letter basically saying that, she could have been Don King, right? You guys at the University of Arizona, I know you got the most dudes in the NBA, but some kind of way you passed up my son and you didn't come recruit him. And so he's going to show up on campus, basically. I'm serious. That's essentially what happened. And so they said, all right, well, we're going to have walk-on tryouts and all this kind of stuff. And so I just showed up as a regular student. The way God would have had it is that my girlfriend at the time, her name was Shantae, and Shantae came from LA. It was my aunt, her uncle were friends. And so we started hanging out back in LA my senior year. And so she got recruited to University of Arizona to play basketball for the women's side. That said, because she was my girl, I already had entrance into the school, if you will, right? Like to the weight room and all that kind of stuff, because she's bringing me around and all this. But basically, I just show up and I find out the guys are playing pickup somewhere, preseason stuff. All you guys know about all that. I just start trying to show up, start to come to games. And when they don't know, you ain't getting on the court. But when they had workouts, they running up the stadium, I would show up uninvited, and I would just sit and watch them run up and down. And if they clocked the time, I would note it down, and then I'd come back later and try to do that. So I just was keeping myself around. Guys kind of knew me and stuff. I had my walk-on tryouts, and they was like, hey, thanks, but no thanks. But you come back in the summertime, and we'll see, you can work summer camp, whatever. We'll see how things go. All right, fine. But it didn't stop me from coming around. So I would still show up at workouts, and I would still do all this stuff. So people was familiar with my face. And I think I learned this a lot from like just being up in LA, like just really just knowing how to hustle. So the idea that you could keep your face in front of people all the time breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds comfort, right? And so for me, I'm around, my girl's around, people know me. And so my girlfriend's coach, Coach Joan Bonvicini, at the time, was like, hey, I heard you trying to walk onto the men's team. Would you mind working out with our girls to make them better? And I was a humble dude. I didn't care. It was cool. So I was like, all right, whatever, I'll do it. But what I didn't realize is that set me up for success, because at the time there wasn't separate gyms, the men's gym and the women's gym. It was all one. So the girls would practice, let's say 3 to 5, and then the men would come in 5 to 7, and vice versa on the opposite days. You guys know how that go. But that always meant that Coach O saw me every day, and all the players saw me every day. And because the girls in the weight room lifting, I got access to the weight room. The dudes in the weight room lifting, we all in the weight room lifting. So they seeing me every single day. And what I try to tell people all the time is, man, just don't give up, because opportunity always comes. And you guys know this like I know it. Somebody not going to make their grade and going to be kicked off the team. Somebody going to get injured, right? There's going to be an opportunity if you just stick with it. And so I was doing that, working out with the girls. And then sure enough, somebody was academically ineligible. Somebody got injured. Now they don't even have 10 dudes to like even scrimmage, right? Like in practice, they don't have nothing. And so they seeing me every day. And so I just hemmed up Coach Jesse Evans one day, because he's the recruiting coach. The recruiting coaches, they just be, So Coach Evans was like, oh yeah, Stuart, I see you out there working them girls out, man. You making all your shots. Sure, we need some dudes like you. We got some old, I won't use the word that he used, but, and I was like, yeah, Coach, well, I'll tell you what, man, I know y'all only got like 9 dudes. And you know what? Why don't y'all just see? Why don't you put me on for 2 weeks? And if you like me, cool. And if you don't like me, then so be it. He said, all right. Well, let's see. You go talk to Coach Rosborough about that, who was the associate head coach. And I remember one of my friends gave me tickets to a game, so the men's game versus UCLA. And me and my buddy Adam is who Jerome was speaking about earlier. We went to the game. I gave Adam the other ticket. We went to the game. So I'm sitting at the top of the McHale Center, and noticed again, had 9 dudes, and I told Adam, like, just something just hit in the spirit, was like, I think it's in Proverbs 20, it says the righteous walk as bold as lions. And I was like, Adam, what if I just went up to Coach O and I was like, man, you need to have me on your team? And Adam just kind of looked at me, like, dude, who? Okay, but he's my boy, so he ain't gonna tell me I'm crazy, but at the same time, who does that? But I went up and I ended up Coach Roz, and I was like, yo, Coach Roz, Coach Evans said it might be a good idea for me to be on the squad for a couple of weeks. Y'all try me out. And he couldn't say no, because I told him that his colleague said it was a good idea. So he was like, all right. Well, let's talk about it. Show up in my office and we'll talk the next day. So I show up. I don't know. He asked me to come at like 9 o'clock. I show up at 9 o'clock. They're like, Coach Roz is not yet. All right, fine. So I missed class to do that. And then I go. The next day, I called him. I'm like, Coach Raj, you wasn't there. He's like, all right, we'll show up, tomorrow at noon. So I come the next day, noon. Is Coach Raj here? No, he's at lunch right now. What you mean he's at lunch? This dude told me to show up. All right, fine. But I'm seeing him every day because I got to work out with the women. So he ain't, so I'm like, Coach Raj, you wasn't there at noon. He's like, all right, we'll show up at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So I'll show up at 10 o'clock. Coach Raj here? Nah, he's not here. He's playing tennis over there at the tennis courts. Damn, this. All right, bet. So I go back home. I'm like, hey, Coach Ross, that's 3 times, man. Are we going to meet? He's like, oh, yeah, Stuart. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's meet at 11:30 right before I go to lunch tomorrow. All right, cool. But you fooled me once. Okay, fooled me twice. And this time got me 3 times. So I show up at 7 a.m. and I just post up in front of his office. Literally, just post up. So the secretary comes in. She's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I'm here to meet Coach Ross. She's like, oh, okay. I don't have that on the calendar for this time. All right, no problem. So I'm sitting there. He walks in at like 8:30. He's like, Stuart, what are you doing here? He's like, our appointment's not till 11:30. I said, yeah, but I want to make sure that I didn't miss you this time. So he was like, all right, well, come on back. And so we go, we start talking, and he starts showing me like all the trophies. Like, you see all these trophies, all these pictures of all these dudes. Like, all these dudes are in the league. Like everybody, like your Steve Kerr, your Sean Elliott, anyone you can think of. He's telling me all this stuff. And he's like, what high school did you go to? Like, how many kids was in that school? I said, Coach Ross, here's the deal, man. I said, I believe I belong here. I said, I think God's going to have me here. And I'm a freshman. So if you don't let me on now, I'm about to be here in your office for the next 4 years till I graduate. And so he was just kind of like, all right, why don't you come downstairs and watch us practice? And I think he's thinking like, once this dude sees the level of player, right? Like Damon Stoudemire's been on this, once he sees this, he's going to back down, right? So I show up at practice and I'm watching and dudes are going up and down. So I got class schedule weight room, women's practice, and then I sit and watch the men practice for 2 hours. They made me do this for 3 weeks. And so finally they're like, yo, we're not getting rid of this dude. And so they come to me and Coach Ross like, yo, you getting all this? I'm getting all this. He's like, you sure? He's like, you good? And I'm like, I'm good. I'm better than good, coach. He's like, all right, I tell you what, you show up tomorrow and I'll bring you, we'll get you some gear. And so sure enough, I showed up the next day. They got me some gear and I was a walk-on and been a Wildcat ever since, right? The following year, Mike Bibby comes in. I don't know if any of you guys follow basketball, but he was an adequate dude.
He wasn't that big then, though, like he is now.
Yeah, he was an adequate dude. So we won a national championship, and like just life just changed, after that for sure. But I wasn't out of woods yet, quite honestly, because I was a walk-on. And like Jerron mentioned, that's out-of-state tuition. A single mom raised me, doesn't have that kind of money. And so I remember after we won a national championship, and I was busting my butt, right? Because you guys know if you go out of state, you don't get in-state tuition. You got to prove that you're a citizen, contributing, whatever it is, right? So that whole summer, I worked at a construction company. I worked at the bank. I worked over at at the business college. They would have me like doing files and stuff like that. Like I was like Jamaican, dude. I had 3 jobs. Plus I was working for Coach O. Plus Coach Bonvicini. Literally getting up at 4 a.m. every day and not going to bed until like 10 o'clock, trying to establish myself, for the taxes. But it wasn't enough. And I remember getting called into the financial aid office, and they were like, "Hey, you can't be here no more. And they're like, you got to go back home." And I was just kind of like, "Dude, what are you talking about? I just won a national championship. Don't you see my name up there? Like, what's going on with y'all?" They're like, "Sorry, you got to go home." And it was a real test of faith. It's kind of like getting to the Red Sea and like Pharaoh's behind you. You're like, "Yo, man, I know you brought me this far. What's up?" And anyway, what happens was I wrote a letter to Coach O, and I was just like, "Look, man," I said, "it's not about, going to the league and nothing like that. I need to finish my education. And I know you guys got a scholarship. And so, I'd appreciate it if you consider it." And fast forward, he did. So I earned my scholarship there, and I was able to finish in 4 years and got my degree. And it's been a blessing. I mean, right now I got a text chain with me and my boys, this alumni crew that I'm a part of, this family I'm a part of, and it's amazing, it's just really, really amazing. I'm humbled and I'm blessed, but that's the Arizona story. So
That was deeper than I remember it, and I was partially there. But that does explain why when I came to visit, like you were invisible. Like, I don't think I saw you like one time in the gym working out with Oscar, and I was like, "Hey, there go Jason." And I was like, "All right then."
yeah,
But the reason, so let me say this: the reason why I wanted to have Jason on here is because I think a lot of times kids are in high school, their family, the kids, an athlete, they're doing well, they're the best on their team, and they start thinking, "I'm gonna go to the league," and the kids are all there, and the kids don't really get the aspect of learning how important the work ethic is, like how important the desire to really go out and say, "I really want to be here, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to be here." Because we're in a time now where not too many people are going to have the story of, well, he didn't show up the first time, he didn't show up the second time. Oh, he dissed me. Oh, he don't care. And they get in their feelings and go away. But I think like there's a point where you begin to instill that all of us here actually come from a background of there was a driven purpose to why you were doing what you wanted to do. And I always talk about the fact that you guys chose to go to a school that was out of state and walk on and make that as a group of friends together. I think that people don't measure the importance of the education. Like the sports is one thing, but there's so many things that are factored into, could you really go pro? There, like the high school you go to, like in the case of JMO, North Shore is probably one of the highest ranked high school programs in the state of Texas. So reasonably, if you go there, you're a 3-year starter, chances are you're going to be able to go compete at a Division I school. Even going to Alabama camp, which I watched Alabama play USC, and I was like, these are not human beings. These are the Monstars. Like, they're just some really big dudes. And so you know, if you're going out there and you know you can hang with them, the only thing that's holding you back might be your height, and that's that's a stat because you can't measure heart, but you can measure height. Say, well, chances are he's not going to be this guy for us. But knowing that you're there are many different paths to get to play in a league, so to speak. And actually, I look towards you in this because as you tell your story, you're kind of like, look, I was tall and I was dominating. And I don't know anything about your high school, but I'm assuming if you 6'2" and you dominating, you stand out in the league. Like you just somebody's watching somebody, and then they saw you, kind of thing.
Well,
unless you average 40 points a game.
My freshman year, you know, you have JV, you have varsity, and so I played JV first because they had another girl on the team who was like 6'5".
So
and I was like, I just learned how to catch the ball. So I know I'm not gonna be like on varsity or nothing, but because my dad really took a lot of time with me. He knocked out one of my teeth on mistake, but he took a lot of time with me, and so you know, there's somewhere between freshman and sophomore year, you know, I developed a lot of skills. That, and he took me to a park where they had some dudes playing, and he was like, "These are my friends," and I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "They're gonna show you the game," and I was like, "Okay." Dude dunked on me, and I had a pair of nuts in my face, and I was like, "I'm a child," and then you know, like I just got tough. But being in New Orleans, I'm from New Orleans. I'm in New Orleans right now, but I went to McDonald 35 Senior High School, which wasn't known for its sports because it was a magnet school. So you had to be super smart. You had to take tests to get in. And so the things that they put their time into at the school was academics. So I mean, you know, you had to be super smart to get in. I was in gifted and advanced classes and stuff like that. And basketball was good to get my energy out. But being a female athlete is different because even if you get all these accolades, the reward is not the same. Just like, you know, when I started playing ball, WNBA was like hot, you know, you look like Lisa Leslie. I do not look like Lisa Leslie. I mean, she's beautiful, but I don't look like her. And you know, just like women's sports wasn't like, yeah, get it. It was like, you gay? Like, what's wrong with you? So the drive wasn't the same. The drive for me was like, I just want my education. Like, what happens afterwards didn't matter. And then the fact is, and I know it's not going to be a popular thing for me to say, but as far as sports is concerned, especially basketball is a very much up and down sport. And women, especially Black women, we have hips. And so all your weight goes to your knees. And I'm telling you right now, my knees so jacked up right now. Like I have 3 girls. And if one of them came to me and was like, "Mommy, I want to play basketball." I'm like, "Nah, fam, we're going to find something else. Because you're going to need your knee done when you're 30. And I'm in my 30s and I'm struggling. Like, so, but the drive isn't the same. The reward isn't the same. The obstacles you face are like greater. I don't care. Like I could have came from a middle upper class family. Like the obstacles I faced playing ball in college wasn't as much as Jason Stewart because you was on it, bro. I would have been like, you know what, I'm going home. I'm going home. But it's like when I went to New Mexico State. I went to New Mexico State on full ride, you know, but the coach was out of her mind. Like she had us in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the day, like running miles. Or she'll just get like a wild hair up her butt and be like, call you at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and be like, I want to watch you run until I get tired, like for no reason. And I'd be like, okay. And so I'm from the Night Lord, all right? I'm from the Night Lord, so it would come out and be like, you know what? I ain't got to do none of this. I'm out. Because if you leave me alone, I'm going to fight you. So, I mean, it's just not the same because, like the whole thing of, like, should student athletes get paid? We would get a stipend, right? So I'm a female. We would get $40 a week for the stipend. Now, brothers, you know, it's our brothers, but I got a menstrual cycle. I got hair to wash. I got, you know what I'm saying? I need bras.
Don't
You
do
know,
that, Ashley.
like you know, like feminine stuff. Like $40 do what? Like do what with just $40? Like you know what I'm saying? And then like I said, you know, Jason Stewart was saying like I just won a national championship. Like you get these accolades. You get like chicks after you and stuff. I get dudes looking at me sideways like, you like the same things I like. Like you don't get the same reward. And the brutality that happens to your body.
It was some nice. It was chicks on the basketball squad. I would have hollered at. Now whether
I'm a co-sign that. I'm a co-sign. Senior, I
whether
co-sign that.
my thing was, there's one or two of them that was like, "Yo, man, I'm not really trying to holler at you. I'm trying to holler at your girlfriend." And that was that, you know, they were serious about that. They were serious about that.
But like in high school, like I was oblivious to all that stuff because I'm a weed. I'm, you know, I can name like at least 25 Japanese animes right now. But it's like once you get to college, it's like make a choice. Do you want to be a student? Do you want to be an athlete that happens to be a student? Because they make the choices for you sometimes. And like the coaches want what they want. And see, like when dudes on a football team be like, "Oh, I got a game," the professors would be like, "Well, turn in your work whenever you want to." And I'd be like, "I have a game." They'd be like, "And?" But I'm on the road. And like turning your work like everybody else turning their work. Like women athletes don't get the same benefit. So
fair. So I want to talk about this because you brought it up of being on the full ride. What was the recruiting process for you? What was that like?
all right. Nobody talked to me about anything. Like you would think I played AAU, my dad played ball. Like nobody talked to me about pretty much anything other than I told my coach one time after a game, one of these schools, I really don't remember, came up to me and was like, "We've been watching you, this, that, and the third," but I was a sophomore. And I said, "Yeah, they said they was watching me." He was like, "They are not supposed to talk to you. You are a sophomore." And I was like, "What?" Like, I didn't know the rules. I didn't know what rules there were. I didn't know what was acceptable, what wasn't acceptable. I didn't know anything. And like these coaches knew all this stuff about me. They knew my GPA, they knew my birthday, they knew all kinds of stuff. And I didn't know who these people were. So there was no like, you know, and I wasn't like the first girl in the high school to get recruited for anything. It was just like, if you like, you know, they come through price of your coach. So you would think your coach would know better than like, you know, these girls are getting looked at. Let me sit them down and talk to them about what the game is. Like, hey, they're not supposed to contact you. You know, make sure you keep your GPA up. You're gonna have school visits. You're gonna have home visits. You only have so many school visits. Like, I didn't get that until like my senior year, and I guess that's when it was supposed to be important. But like, it was so much information that they gave me my senior year that I was like, so nobody's supposed to contact me before my junior year, but you've been talking to me, you know. And then I would see stuff like they broke this, like when LeBron James got in trouble. Like, you ever think that maybe LeBron James got in trouble with some stuff because he just didn't know? Well, I doubt it. But for me, I didn't know. So there was nobody like really to walk me through that process. And my dad was very supportive, but my mama wasn't. Like, she was like, that's just too mannish for me. I don't like you playing that basketball with the manly women's, and I don't like it. So it's just, I don't know. I guess I'm the odd person now because it was just so much information that was just not available to me. But I got recruited from a lot of schools, and I even got like one of those like, "Hey, we saw you play" letters from UConn, and I was like, but they didn't say nothing about me coming to school.
Well, you know what's interesting? Like, and Jason, you can attest to this. Like, I don't remember having anything remotely near a conversation of recruiting. Like, I know when we were there's only two players that I even remember remotely, and they left. really, that were like heavily recruited, and if he comes, one of the guys that commented, Eric Whitfield was one of them, and he left and ended up playing for, I think he played for Bannon, and then went to UCLA, and then ended up playing for the Redskins for a short period. But like the part that's crazy about it is you don't know anything about the idea of recruiting. And I remember going to our football coach when I got the letter and asking him like, so who, how, when, where, like what? Did you submit me to something? And he was like, no. And I'm thinking, so I don't, like you don't know where it comes from, and you're right, you don't know what to do. Um, and I know I talking and with Jason, I know talking to Adam and Oscar, like they actually had like letters of recruiting, and they just were like, they didn't want to go there, but there was never any conversation about the process. Even the most I got was, where do you want to go to college next year? Nobody talked about the idea of, you probably could play football somewhere. You've been pretty good here, and talking about NAIA or talking about Division III or talking about all these schools. I remember getting this big thick book of all the colleges in America and having to look in them and seeing who did I want to apply to. Was like an English class assignment. And thinking back on it, had I known that maybe you are good enough to get a scholarship, or maybe there are scholarships available for you of athletics, I probably would apply to every little school in any place in the planet, knowing that would have possibly given me a free education. And that leads to like why I really wanted to do this discussion, is because I think that the focus is always so high on getting to the pro level or getting to this top tier school, when the reality of it is the math class at North Carolina is the same math class that you'll find in Opelousas State. The math doesn't change. The education doesn't change. Now, you might get more opportunities. And like I said, what I love about Jason's story is it is that perfect happy ending of the hard work paid off into something that one of, what it was, 15 people on the team? Like,
well, I don't, you say perfect happy ending. The happy ending would have been y'all see me in the Lakers jersey. That would have been a happy ending for me.
Listen, you led the Pac-10 in free throws.
Yeah.
You led the Pac-10 in free throws. Listen, you were 2 for 2.
But I think I just think it's different. And I'll say, we fast forward the conversation. I think, I don't know if Dron shared this or not, but I coach. All right, I coach high school basketball now, and the days of ignorance aren't at least where I'm coming from and where I'm at. I'm in San Diego. I'm talking to you guys from San Diego. I'm in Carlsbad area, and it's North County, San Diego. So I'm around some pretty affluent people with regards to all of that stuff. And John, I don't know what you're doing to the screen, man, but I want to see everybody. I don't know what's happening. But what I would say is,
trying to focus on you. We're trying to give you some.
I want to see who I'm talking to. But what I would say is that there's so much information now. There's the Twitters and the Instagrams, and people are tweeting out and doing all kinds of stuff. So I think parents, get to know. And the other thing too is that, with all these AAU tournaments and all these different showcases, those showcases bring kids. If you ever go to one, they take the kids into a room and they show them the NC2A video, and this is what you do, and the clearinghouse, and they do all of that stuff. So kids know something. They do know something now. I think where things get convoluted in today's society is that everyone thinks they're going to go. And I don't know how they do it in you guys' neighborhoods, but like our clubs have the A team, and then they got the B team. And if your kid don't make the A or the B team, don't worry, they'll make a C team for you, right? Because at the end of the day, they making money, right? For them, they making money. And in our community, our parents get caught up in the local Twitter guy who's tweeting about this kid and this kid. Well, that Twitter guy has a son that plays for that club. So that guy is boosting that club for his own reasons, right? His son's maybe not paying any money to go there, whatever the case may be. But the other folks that are watching all think, well, that's the club to go to. So we're going to go to that club. And everyone is seduced with this idea that I have to play club ball and pay this money in order to be able to be seen by coaches and to be seen to get a scholarship. And where I live, it's not that the parents can't afford their kids' tuition, because they absolutely can. There's usually two things. One, if I can save some extra money and put, 60 to 100 grand back in my pocket, I want to do that. But then two, I just want my kid to have fun. That's what a lot of these parents are today. I want my kid to have fun. And if my kid doesn't like work and you're trying to make him work, well, he's not having fun. And so I'm having maybe an issue with your program, and I'm going to transfer him to this school where he can have more fun. Maybe he can be the starter over here. Maybe he can do this. And so that's what I see happening in today's society. People are not ignorant about the recruiting process. They know what's going on, but they're all jockeying for this position. And I don't think people actually slow down and ask themselves, hey, if I was a recruiter, what would I do? And if I was getting bombarded, if I was a college coach, I'm getting bombarded by all these people, how do I focus in, right? Like every club can't be the successful club. Every one of the kids across the country is competing for the scholarship. How do you stand out? And I'll tell you right now, my kids go to a small school. Sounds like, Ashley, a little bit of your school is based on academics, not sports first. And so as a result, I make all my kids have a 3.5 or better. And what ends up happening is most of them start competing in their grades, so they have a 4.0. And I will tell you, there are local clubs here that's got, and look, I'm sorry, guys. I coach a bunch of vanilla kids. I'm lucky if I get a mixed kid on my squad, all right? These kids is all vanilla. They ain't got the athletic ability that you got in your big toe, all right? But I send kids to school. And because they have a 4.0, and they don't care if they get to go, listen, a D3 or a D2, they ask you what's your financial situation, and then they work it out and they make you an offer. You don't have to pay full price. And so what ends up happening is I'm trying to tell kids, like, and honestly, who does me the most dirty? The white parents be like, yeah, coach, whatever you say, right? It's the black kid, the mixed kids. They start hanging out with the brothers at that club that's got the ABC team, and this mixed kid is 5'9", and he's on the C team over there. Well, this dude just want to listen to all the other brothers with all the other kids, and he think that's the way it's gonna go. And the reality is, your kid is not that dude. And doesn't mean he can't get a scholarship, he can't go to college. But if you don't fully commit to a program, to your academics first, then you're not going to be in a position to make yourself rise. And so I wanted to say that because I know we're talking a lot about recruiting and how everybody's process goes. And I don't know if you guys have kids and at what age they are right now. But I'll tell you, as a current coach, what I see on a regular basis in my neighborhood. And being in club sports right now, boy, you can make $1 million, no question, because everybody's eating the same cheese.
Right. And you bring up a very good point, because one of the things that Jason and I talk about, because I've known Jason like almost 20 years now, in terms of, Jason W. I've known Jason. I've known you like since I was born, but Jason Washington, I've known since before he had kids, and his kids are now at the age where they're in high school and they're playing sports. So you start watching it, and I've gone to AAU games, and you sit there and you got, each team has like one player that's like, what, he's got a shot, that he's carrying the weight of the team. And I always think about that kid that's at the end of the bench, right? Like not AB, but just the guy that's there and he doesn't get a lot of playing time. And I always think about the cost, the cost to be on these teams, the price that you pay. And Jason and I have talked about it like casually back and forth about, for the amount of money that you spend to travel with your kid, to put and do all these different things, do you think, like for your kids at your school, do you think instead of them being on these club teams, if a parent said, you know what, Jason, who's a good coach that we can hire to work with him personally and pay that person to help that kid develop their skills so that when they come play on your team, they're a better player? Like the academics, of course, are going to happen because the requirements that you have, but sometimes it's just the practice, like getting the practice outside of the team where you can develop the skills, because you're coaching 12 to 15 kids at one time. Mm-hmm. So it may be a kid who has, let's look at you, for example, like you had to drive. So if the finance had been there to say, you know what, Jason, I know you're playing the Gateway, I'm going to get you this personal coach to work out with on the weekends. What difference do you think that would have made for you in your game?
Well, first, I think you asked good questions, and I would say this, so part of that story is that between my senior year in high school and my freshman year in college, there was a gentleman named Mr. Chambers who actually passed away earlier. That was Kalia's father, Jerron.
Yeah.
But this was a dad that was sitting in the stands. I didn't know anything about it at all, who just had been watching me because his daughter was a cheerleader. So he was watching games, watching his daughter, and he took an interest in me. And he had been trying to ask my coach if he could work with me. I don't know, for like a year. And I didn't know this at all. And my coach kept telling them no. I would find all this out later. But once I got done with my senior season, then he can't tell him no. And he approached me. And he worked out with me that whole time, my summer, school lets out in May or whatever that is, until I arrived on campus in Arizona. So let's say 3-4 months, every day as my personal trainer, right? And that made all the difference for me, because I had to drive, but I didn't have the skill set, to your point. I thought I did. Now, if you had asked me, I told you I'm the best thing since sliced bread. But it was him, you look back and it was him that helped me to get to that point. But I think that you can't take one without the other. The biggest struggle I see with kids today, and this is where, you guys have your own stories, but what I noticed is, our family introduces us to a sport, but at some point that kid's got to take ownership on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was the drive with the girls. For you guys, it might have been something else. But if you don't have something that's going to push you as a coach, I can't give you motivation. I can't make you want it, right? Like, if you don't want it, you just don't want it. And I don't care what kind of training you get. So I see parents here spend so much money on club, so much money. Everyone around here's got a trainer. There's no one around here who does not have a trainer. Okay. If you don't have a trainer, someone thinks something's wrong, you are behind around here. So everybody's got a trainer out here, and good trainers too. We're not talking about, some dude that crawled out of bed. I mean, good trainers. But what ends up happening is their kid, if they didn't have a trainer, if they didn't have the high school coach, they wouldn't touch a ball because they don't want it. They want to play video games. They want to go hang out. They don't want it. And I think it's hard for parents today because you struggle with that. Your kids are socializing online. Mm-hmm. And that was different when we had video games. I was playing the computer. And if my boy came over, I'm playing him. Now, a kid can get online and they can play somebody, over in New Orleans or over in Texas or over in whatever. And they playing all of their boys that got a squad in Call of Duty. We all going to go. And so it's a different social environment. They have different pulls on them right now. So I think a trainer is beneficial. But if you become dependent on a trainer, for you to develop the work, like, I feel like this: if a coach is always fussing at you and a trainer is always asking you to do some work, then you really don't have work ethic.
Right. Oh, that's a good
You're
point.
doing an assignment. You're just doing
I do want to ask Jason Washington, Jason W. All right, what am I going to ask you, J-Mo?
No. If you can you come back to me? I promise it'll be. Can you come back to me?
No, I got you. We'll get back. J-Mo. So let me ask you this: in coming out of North Shore, I know you said you had letters from there. Like, what was your thought process that led you to choose Texas Southern?
I mean, just same thing pretty much. My mom, my parents was bigger supporters, but did not have enough money. In my eyes, to fund school. So in my eyes, I always thought like scholarship was important. So North Shore, as Jason said, academics first. Grades, you got to pass to play. So that being so important, allowed me to really focus on what I had to do for my grades, to play football. So with that, I start seeing how important grade was once I started like seeing the recruiting process. As Ashley stated, like they started talking about GPAs, like what you been making and what you been averaging in this class, like what I'm saying, they could tell you everything. So I started really seeing that it played a field. It correlated. You doing good in school and grades, you're gonna be doing good on the field. You're doing bad in grades, you're gonna be doing bad on the field. So I mean, that, and then just parents, like my mom, my biggest supporter ever since I was young. They grew up playing sports, football. So always, having that, like you said, man, if the kids gotta win. If the parents gotta make it, then the kid don't really want it. You're not gonna really do whatever it takes to get to the next level. So really just finding that and coming in tune with that. Because football was my passion. Me being the only boy. I had Brittany in the house with me, but Brittany she was getting out when I was going to college, high school. So I had to kind of experience that on my own. So, so football was my outlet. To where I enjoyed to relieve stress, like So, and just so want to get a scholarship. I really wanted to play at the next level. Like, I had another scholarship last second from Southeastern. like as you stated, a guy gonna fall off academically. Somebody not gonna make it academically. It came down to it. Southeastern had 2 scholarships left. He said, I got one for you, and it's another guy. This other guy might not. You got 1 scholarship left. It's between the 2 people, me and this other guy. He was like, he might not make it academically. And if he don't, then we know we got the scholarship for you. So that ended up happening. But at that point, I kind of had my mind made up. Like, man, y'all want me second. I'm gonna show y'all. Y'all gotta go here. They want me first. So that's what made me really choose lock in on TSU. Full ride scholarship. I mean, I couldn't pass it. Academics paid for it, so that's what really just secured it for me.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, you guys all touch on the academic aspect of it, and I think that is the part that a lot of parents don't. Well, I'll say this: a lot of parents in different backgrounds don't think about because, you know, in high school for me, my biggest question was I didn't know how we were going to pay for college.
Mhm.
Like, I will completely say that after Jason's class left, like there was really not a lot of information being passed around about the process of going to college. It's
Mhm.
just it didn't translate a lot for a lot of us. Even the recruiting process, like I know who Jason's coach was, who was the coach all the way up until after I graduated, and I got plenty of stories of players who played for him that had opportunities that he didn't follow up where they needed to be followed up as a coach, you
Mhm.
know, and it's difficult because you're in this environment where, like I tell most people that pay to anything that I do that's critical health related is like at a certain point you just want out. Like you want out of your situation. Like I wanted out of Compton. So whatever that path was or whatever that method was, I was all for. So no, I didn't want to play college football. I enjoyed playing in high school. I loved it, loved the camaraderie, but I was like, I'm good. I took my helmet off after the last game and I was fine until that letter came. And when
Mhm.
the letter came, that was like hope. So like the hope of like this is the opportunity. So no matter how smart I think I am, this might be how we pay for this. This might be how we get to that next place. And it didn't happen. And personally, I probably was lost for like a good year of trying to figure out, well, I don't know what I want to do. Like all my friends are going to college. I'm smart enough to go to college, but I don't know if I want to take these loans and get this money and do all these other things. And I think that a lot of kids that come from, we'll call it an urban background, if you want to say that,
Black.
like,
I'm just black. Urban
but
means black. I
but
used to be urban, so I just black.
well, I mean, okay, fine, if you we'll go there. But my main thing is what I'm saying is that like your eyes get set so hard on I want to go to USC or I want to go here. Like you may not even have it in you the idea of walking on. Like I remember when they went to Arizona, and I remember talking to Adam about it was like 19,000 a year, and I was like, wait, what? Where is this coming from? Like how? What? And then I'm gonna owe this money, and like financial literacy becomes part of it. A whole bunch of different thoughts come to you, and I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to leave the state and have to pay this money and all these different things. So it was kind of a barrier. But I think that if somebody had been like, well, Jerron, listen, you can go look at this school over here. It's a school of 3,000 kids. They got a football team. They offer scholarships. You can go. I might have been in Lincoln, Nebraska, but like I didn't know the process of being able to get there. And I think a lot of times, like Jason said, there are a lot of opportunities out there, but a lot of kids, if they're not really good, can't afford to be on the AAU teams. Maybe all they have is what we had. You can go to this private school here, so we know you're safe, and it's a good school, and you'll get an education and there. But I'll say it because you're a gentleman. But what if your coach is trash? Like, like honestly, what if your coach is trash? What if Mr. Chambers doesn't take that time to spend and invest in you because he sees something in you? I remember playing football. I remember the only reason I didn't play my freshman year, I came out for one day and was like, no, this is crazy. I'm out. And I remember Larson coming to me every day of my freshman year saying, you're going to play next year, you're going to play next year, you're going to play next year. I remember guys working out with me to make sure that I was going to play. And it might have been just to have an extra body. But for me, it made me feel like, okay, I got to do this one because I gave my word. But it was never about, I'm going to go play in college. It was never about anything else. It was really about, I'm in this environment and these are my friends. This is my group. This is who I go to battle with kind of thing. And maybe that's a small school mentality. But what I realize is that as I'm doing this and I'm actually pretty good at it, nobody's talking to me about college because you just don't think it's possible. And I didn't know about travel football. I didn't know about any of that stuff if it existed. But now I look at it as if you're a middle of the road kid, your parents don't have a lot of money. You're not the best player on the AAU team. Nobody's been scouting you since fourth grade. Like, how do you get that information? How do you find those opportunities? Like, you as a coach, you said it. Like, you get your kids to college, but is it because you're taking this active, strong approach into seeing, look, I know who I have as players. Maybe I need to be more friendly with these schools versus trying to find out who can get to Arizona?
I mean, if y'all don't mind me answering that, I feel like there's a couple of things. Number one, I think you need to, if sports is your focus, okay, I think that's important to understand. Then you need to find a program, whether that's the club program or a high school program, and you need to treat it as if you were, like all of us as adults, the way we treat jobs, right? So now you can go work for, and I'm a recruiter in the biotech and pharma space. You can go work for Novartis or J&J. You can go work for Genentech. You can go work for these different companies. Whatever company that you're going to go work for, that's all in the same industry, all right? And then you're going to look at the leadership. You're going to look at the CEO, and then you're going to look at all the people under them and the management team. And if they're publicly traded, you want to look at their stocks. You have to evaluate, right? And I think that's the best approach to anything. And I think if you can teach kids, because what I think at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is the work ethic, all this kind of stuff, but we are all trying to put ourselves and our kids in the position to be successful on their own at some point. So you teach someone how to fish instead of giving them fish. Mm-hmm. And so that said, teach a kid how to evaluate. Mm-hmm. Teach, someone to say, all right, well, this is a good coach. What kind of resources does he have? Not every coach that coaches high school around here went to University of Arizona. So when I'm able to do something for my kid, that's because I can call some of my guys and say, hey, there's a kid over here. He's not an Arizona guy, but he'd be a walk-on in Arizona, but I want to give him some playing time. And they say, you know what? We can go, and because all of them, in order to coach at Arizona, you had to coach at all these little schools first, right? Mm-hmm. So they said, I was used to be the head coach over at whatever school. Call my guy, Jason, and tell him that I told you to call and see what's – and I'll get 4 or 5 colleges because of who I am, right? I cannot say – you can't put that on every high school coach. Everybody doesn't have those connections. Some high school coaches have to start a club, and they got to have that 1 or 2 blue chip so that colleges start looking at their club. Mm-hmm. That's the only way that coach is going to get a connection to the higher level. He's building a career for himself. Because if that college coach ever calls him and says, yo, I'm getting ready to go build a program. I know you got all the high school kids. You coming with me. Mm-hmm. Well, then that coach just got his ticket to the next level, right? So I think you have to ask yourself, what school am I going to? Who's the coach there? What type of offense do they run? Mm-hmm. What type of defense do they run? Do I fit into that, right? Like, you got to ask that. Not be afraid of competition. I guess some parents are like, well, Arizona was recruiting my son, but they also recruiting this guy in his same position. I don't like that. It's competition. Like, who cares if they're recruiting somebody else? Go kick his butt, and then you ain't got no problem with it. Right. Everybody don't have that mentality though. So I just think it's an evaluation process nonetheless. I don't think every coach is in the position that I'm in. And I'm gonna tell you right now, all these vanilla dudes, we not the win in this high school program. We not. So, I mean, it's just real talk, you know what I mean? Like, my dudes, some of them got credit card jumpers, right? They barely, but when I get those 1 and 2 dudes, I'm going to advocate for those cats, right? And so what ends up happening is I get, and I'm not going to call out any coaches' names and stuff like that because I know we live and anybody could be tuning in and all that stuff. But I will tell you there's parents who choose to go to the program that's maybe winning more than we win. The coach don't have no connection. They don't have nothing like that. All of these kids go over there, and most of them will end up getting cut or be out of the program because of the environment by the time they're sophomores or juniors. They're done. And parents don't get that. They don't think and think about that. They just, that's the sports school. We going to the sports school.
827.
So
I think that the aspect of when you focus a kid just athletically, and I know we're talking about, recruiting and things like that, but when you focus a kid just solely on athletics, you sell them short. It's just like I was saying, I went to a magnet school where academics was the forefront. And I think that's where that work ethic comes in, because in order for you to even touch the court, you have to at least have a 3.0, well, at that time, had to have a 3.0 at a magnet school where everything was advanced. So either you kept up with your schoolwork or you couldn't play. And so what happened with me was, yeah, I got recruited by a lot of schools to play ball, but I also got recruited by a lot of schools for my brain. So LSU recruited me for my brain, not for my body. So if I decided to say, well, I want to play for LSU, I could have went to LSU on an academic scholarship where the financial aspect wasn't as severe. Like, okay, well, at least some of it is covered. Okay, I'm gonna walk on, and then I have the opportunity to focus on my studies because I'm on academic scholarship, with the opportunity to get a athletic scholarship. That's one thing. Another thing, Jason Stewart, you have kids?
I do, 5 and 2, and as a matter of fact, my 2 years yelling his head off, so I might have to go handle that real quick before
No, that's right. That's not about right. That's right.
You don't know my wife, okay? And I need her to be happy. All right. So.
Now I am a wife, so I know how that goes. But anyway, but like as parents, sometimes you focus so much on just like the day-to-day, like feeding, raising, having the talks and all that good stuff. And I have 3 girls, and my oldest is 8. And so like, just talking about girl stuff, puberty, all that. If she was playing a sport right now, the sport thing would not be on top of my list. On the top of my list is keeping you alive. Right. And but because I play sports, but because I have been through this process, that is kind of like on my radar. For me, growing up, my dad didn't have a support system, so he kind of didn't know how to, like his thing was, you pick where you want to go, I will support you. My mom was against me playing sports. I didn't understand it at the time. Now I do, because she would always tell me, you ain't even had babies yet. And I'm like, what's that have to do with anything? Now I know. But I mean, there has to, this is going to sound so corny. You have to focus on a whole kid. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be athletics. It can't just be one thing. You can't just be a weed. Like, you have to be well-rounded. So when you go into an atmosphere where you have to pay attention to all these things, your head has to be on a swivel. Like you said, you have to evaluate these things. What kind of coach is this person? How does that coaching style fit with who you are as a student? And you don't be thinking about these things, because even in school, and I'm about to go real deep for a second. When you're in school, they don't tell you to think on your own. They tell you how to do something. This is how you add 1 + 1 = 2. This is how you find this. This is how you go through the scientific method. This is how you learn about civic studies and all that good stuff. They tell you what it is. They don't tell you how to figure it out. Nobody teaches you how to figure things out. And that was my biggest issue in this whole process, because it was just like, y'all gonna laugh at me. I picked New Mexico State because it was the furthest place from my house, and I like the colors. I knew nothing about the coach. I knew nothing about the program. I knew nothing about their record. Nothing. And when I got there, it was just like, it was a nightmare. Like, the coach was actively trying to break me. And what she didn't know was the mom I had already did it. So you couldn't break me. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom was from the hood. She's hood. My dad was from the hood. What you gonna tell me? It was nothing she could say. You couldn't make me physically do anything that I didn't want to do. So had I paid attention to the things that you were speaking of, Jason Stewart, I probably would have been in a better position. I probably would have continued to play ball outside of college. Like, when Katrina happened, I was going into my senior year, and that's why I don't have no jerseys or nothing. So whatever. But I did. Like, I was at North Carolina A&T State, and the coach that was there, I don't know what's up with women coaches, but they are but the best coach I ever had in college was a male coach. He never cussed at us. He ain't like, you know, like they get vindictive. Like we run until I throw up. Like, how you, what? No.
I've heard that a lot actually with women's. But I can't, you know, obviously I don't want to call anybody out, but I've heard that a lot. Women's basketball coaches.
So, like, but I'm saying, like, had I paid attention to these things, like University of University of South Alabama was recruiting me, and so the way they did it was, you know, they take you to the school, you go to a school visit. Did the girls on the team give me alcohol? Of course they did. Did I go to a club? I was 16. Of course I did. But what the coaches did was they got up the next morning, they brought their whole families with them, and they all had breakfast. And the one thing my mama said was, I like this school because they're family oriented. And I was like, that don't have nothing to do with me. That's too close to home. That's like an hour and a half. I don't like it. I'm going as far as I possibly could. And if I had at least listened to that tidbit, you know what I'm saying, of information, I probably would have had a better college experience. So I ended up leaving New Mexico State. I had to go to a JUCO because I couldn't play D1. That found, you know, go from one D1 to another D1. And if I wanted to, I had to sit out a year. And I was like, if I sit out a year, I ain't coming back. So I went to a teeny tiny school called Paris Junior College in Paris, Texas, where, I mean, like I thrived. And then I went to North Carolina A&T State. I mean, I had fun, but had I known that, had somebody sat me down and was like giving me like real game about recruiting and what like NCAA rules, like when I was at New Mexico State, you know, you only could play and practice like 20 hours a week, right? This woman had us in there like 35 hours, and now it, like you had to sign this paper like saying you only practice for 20 hours. I was like, I'm not signing that.
So I guess I want to ask this question because I think you guys bring up a very good point about the responsibilities that the kids have. You know, Jason, you deal with about 12 parents, groups of parents in that process. Like, how do the parents' role play? Because, you know, I always look at it this way. A 14, 15-year-old kid in terms of high school doesn't really have a lot of say where they're going to end up going to high school. But how do you prepare parents to deal with the process?
Well, again, I think it all depends on where we're at. We're here. I can honestly tell you that there are just about, I don't think any parents make the decision for their kids here what high school they're going to go to. So I live in what's called a choice district, and we have these 2 middle schools, and they feed into 4 different high schools. Okay, and regardless of where you live, as long as you're in this district, you can choose what high school you want to go to. And you know what's the number one thing that a middle school kid is thinking when he's trying to make a decision? Where are my friends going to go? That's it. Where are my friends going to go? And so that's it. I get a lot of parents who will say, Coach, I really wanted him to choose, you know, San Diego Academy is the name of the high school. I really wanted him to choose SDA, but he wants to go with his friends. Now, if you guys were like me growing up, my mama told me, you about to go to this school over here. Mm-hmm. You don't have a choice. You about to go to this school right here. But that's not the way it is. So now, to your point, Ashley, about how do we train kids, not tell them what to do, but how to make choices. The parents here, and I can honestly tell you, I live around the 1% that we all hear about on TV. The parents here allow their kids to make choices at an early age. Now, some of that is because they don't have to protect kids the same way that maybe my mama had to protect me in the neighborhood that I grew up in. But these kids make their own decisions. They really do make their own decisions. And so that said, when they choose to either come to my school or not, for those who do choose to come to my school, then I'm able to sit down with them and talk to them. And, you know, what are your goals? I have all of my kids, you know, right. What are the top 10 colleges you want to go to? So that's on their mind. Some of them haven't thought about it, but many of them have already thought about it in this neighborhood. And so the question just becomes, how do I help guide them in that process as far as making those choices and helping them to evaluate? Most of my kids don't believe they can play in college. So my uphill battle is telling them, you can, you're going to get the grades. I know you are, because your mom and dad's going to bust your butt if you don't get a 4.0. You're going to have the opportunity. I need you to these guys have to learn how to have faith in themselves. And I think that was different for me growing up. I had all the faith in myself, but it was, how do I evaluate situations? To your point, Ashley, I was lucky. University of Arizona said I could go there. Michigan State was late in their acceptance with regards to my application, and so as a result, when it came down to it, I was like, I'd rather be hot than cold, and that was better in the summertime for the pool parties with the ladies too. So I can't be bad at it. But all that said, I had a great coach in college, and that went, I think who you choose for your kids to be coached by makes all the difference in the world. And to Ashley's point, something I think that we need to be more conscious of, especially as minorities, what seems like a larger say-so and a piece of the pie as all the conversations are happening in our country and maybe even globally, is that we need to be careful about trying to enter all of our kids in this lottery system that we call athletics. And the realities are, I got two torn Achilles, right and left. My meniscus is torn on the left side. My rotator cuff, like all of this stuff, I gave my body for this sport. And I think that if we put ourselves in a position to where we can succeed academically and really start having our kids have an imagination about what they could be outside of a sport, I think that allows our kids to go further. To her point, we don't have to I think gone are the days, or at least they're becoming less and less, where the system is just pumping us into entertainment, because that's what sports is at the end of the day. It's entertainment,
all around.
Right. If we get to the point, we're talking to our kids about.
Hold on, Jason Stewart. Hold on. I'm about to put my teacher hat on and be like, other Jason, can you meet yourself?
He just got 3 or 4 clients.
Let me throw one.
That should be comedy. I'm actually a comedian.
Okay.
I'm in entertainment.
Let me throw this out there real quick. Jason, in case he don't make it, I know you said you may have to go in a second, but Eric is probably going to pop in, and he wanted me to tell you what's up in case he misses you. So I may get him in a second. I don't know. Jason's back. Let me just see if he's coming back here. Jason, you good?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right. So the quick way of saying this is Jason W. represents those parents, as he has a freshman football / basketball player. I don't know. We got a baseball player. I don't know if he's playing.
He's playing. We don't know if he's a baseball player yet.
Okay.
That makes any sense.
But like I said, a lot of conversations I have, like I've known Jason since before he had kids, and watching his kids grow up and looking at the process. One of the things that I always thought about is when you are a former college athlete, is part of your goal, if your kids play sports, like if they show a desire to play sports, are you looking to give them what you wish you had during your process? And then at a certain point, how do you help? Because it's natural. And I'll say this for everybody. Our kids are going to grow up weaker than us from a certain standpoint, because we're trying to make it a little bit easier than we had it. Like Jason, where you're at right now raising your kids is a complete 180 from where you grew up. It's just, that's the simple fact of what it is. Not that they're not going to have their own struggles and difficulties, but again, they're not really worried about somebody pulling up down the street and shooting them. Like, that's not the major concern to both Jasons, really. And actually,
Nah, I can't.
I know. I know. I've had another conversation for you, but like those are the things that, like, even when I don't have kids now, but I think about that. Like, my kids are probably not gonna want it as bad as I wanted it, because there's nothing around them to make them feel like I gotta get the hell up out of here. Like, there's just nothing.
I don't agree with that. Right quick, I don't agree with that. I'm gonna tell you why. My parents felt like my upbringing was so much easier because I didn't actually live in the hood, but me playing sports as a woman, a girl in the early 2000s, it still wasn't like something to do. It just wasn't. And so it was still a struggle. That and my home life wasn't great. So it's always obstacles that your kids are going to face that you never had to face, and there are going to be obstacles you face that your kids will never have to face.
No, I agree. I mean, Jason brought up a perfect point. I grew up an only child. I play video games to this day by myself. I don't need to go online. The computer is as hard as a competitor I need. But if somebody comes over, yeah, we could play. But I'm not trying to go online and play somebody in another country. I don't even think about it. It's not even remotely interesting. But to Jason's point, this is where the social interaction happens for all these kids. You know, and I'll ask, well, everybody involved is like, how do your kids deal with rejection? Because my experience with rejection was, look, you just know when you're not good enough. Like you didn't have to be told, and you took it, and you either decided you wanted to get better. There was no participation trophies. We got offended by a participation trophy. I remember playing in a basketball league, and our team came in like 8th, and I got a participation trophy. I was like, for what? Like, this is completely worthless to me. I don't care about this. We lost. Like, there. And, you know, I remember going to another friend's kids game, and they're like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds playing soccer, and they're kicking the ball, going. And I'm cheering because my friend's kid is doing good. And they're like, no, we don't cheer. What are you talking about? Like, they don't even keep score. I was like, I'm keeping score. If she sits there and she kicks 4 goals in there, we should cheer that. And if that kid right there gives up 4 goals, he needs to learn that he needs to be better. Like,
that's a parent's responsibility, though. Like, you can't rely on social constructs, because social constructs are, I'm gonna go deep here, for white people. Anyway, so like my kids, my baby said, Mom, I want to sing. You gotta do it on key though. Like, can we start on key, and then maybe we can talk about it? But you can't sing on key. You sound like a cat getting strangled. And I'm sorry, Mama is sorry. I love you very much, but you can't sing. Rejection, right there.
I can't say much for parenting in that regard. I'm just saying in terms of, like, you watch kids nowadays, and it's almost like some of them don't care enough to lose or win. Like, I remember my last year of high school, we won no games. I mean, this was horrible. And I would get so mad because the kids under me were just laughing, enjoying life was great. I was like, we just lost the game 45-0. Like, where are you finding the humor at right now? Jason, you'll understand this. We lost to, I can't think of the name right now, but we lost 75-0 to Rio Hondo. 75-0 my senior year. They were partying. Like, this is great. I was like, do you understand that they almost scored 100 by halftime?
Wait, this is football?
This is football. Like, let me tell you the frustration that I felt, because I knew going into the game we had never scored against them. These kids was talking the whole week like, man, we're going to get – I said, we're lucky if we score. Let's just make the goal to get 7. If we get 7, we are better than every team prior to 75-0. I was running down punters. My defensive tackle self was outrunning people just from pure desire of, look, ain't no stats on the line, so I might as well just get these punts off. I'm going to tackle something.
Huge change, though. Okay, and so benefit I have of working with kids today is that I see the change. And so right now, and you're my guy, but you sound like the old man. Say, hey, you standing on my lawn. And kids today are just different, right? And they do not want to hear us talk about our struggles and how much we wanted it, and they don't want it. They don't want to hear that. They can care less about with you. They don't want to hear that at all. And they tune you out as a result. So the reality is, for today's kids, I've learned that you have to talk to them not like adults, but they like the fact that you respect their opinion.
Talk to them and not at them.
Yes, talk with them. As a coach, I have to talk with my kids. So it's what do you think? I ask that question. Now, I already know what I want to do as a coach, but what do you think? You're right, they don't like rejection, but I can't tell my kids, yo, man, you suck. I can't tell them. I have to ask them, okay, let's say you were trying to put together a winning squad on NBA 2K or whatever it is game you play, whatever it is. And I have to ask them, who are you going to pick? I'm going to LeBron James. You're going to put together the best squad, are you not? And how are you going to evaluate that? You're going to evaluate that based on stats, are you not? Okay, so am I. Now, let's say you were sitting in my shoes. Who would you pick on this squad right here? And you know what? They know the truth. Now, the ones who are spoiled brats, they're gonna be like, oh, well, coach put me in this position, and and I got to make choices. But the ones that know the truth be like, you're right, coach. You're right. Now, even then, that doesn't mean that they're gonna change their behavior. Doesn't mean I'm gonna see that kid shooting 500 makes the next day, but they know the truth. And so I just think, you lose kids if you reminisce, right? Like think about it. Our parents, I used to walk up, to school uphill in the snow both ways, right? Like, yeah, okay. These kids aren't any different.
Okay.
So you gotta respect them. Now I know Washington's got older kids. J-Mo, do you have any kids? And if so, how old?
I got two. I got a 4-year-old and then a 3-year-old.
Okay, so you like me, we just starting. Ash is kind of in the middle. But Washington, you in the thick of it, and you're a former athlete. So if you can, I want to ask you, what is your experience with your kids' desire to play sports? And then if you could talk a little bit maybe about what struggles you might have as a dad, knowing what's inside of your kids, but maybe they don't know it yet, or just whatever your communication issues are. I mean, if you could kind of speak to that, I think that'd be helpful. Okay, yeah, you kind of.
Can you hear me?
Internet is going in and out.
Hello?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, so you must have been talking to Jerron, because that is the biggest issue I've had since being around youth sports. I have one son who, can you hear me, Jason?
Yeah.
And J-Mo and Ashley?
Yeah. We hear you.
Okay, so that's one of the biggest issues that I've had. Being around youth sports, you see all the competition that is out there, and you see all of and it goes back to your first point, how these parents are always pushing these kids, almost taking the fun out of the game for the kids, but at the same time, the kids want to actually just go out there and have fun. Well, I have one son who excels much more in football and basketball, and we've played on more of a national level and an elite level. And so we put so much time, we put so much money in traveling to different tournaments and different showcases, and in the end, I honestly don't think my son is giving his all. I don't think he's realized that, and I think sometimes some kids progress quicker than others. My son, the main one that plays the sports, he's 6'1". I think he's maybe 190. He played basketball. Now he plays football, defensive end. I mean, he has all of the tools that you would need. He has the ability. He shows it at times, but he's not consistent. And I think what it boils down to is the fact that it hadn't turned on inside for him. He's more like, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to do too much.
Yeah.
That's how it was. That's how it was, because I was a big girl, and you would have like these little point guards.
Hello?
I was a girl.
Hey Jay, you kind of froze. You froze there. I don't know where you happened to. Okay.
You got to get back to a good internet spot.
But yeah, first of all, I didn't realize the kid was that big because I used to choke him. So I'm bad.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay, sorry. Did I lose y'all?
No, you froze.
No.
You froze up.
Okay.
You talking about this son.
See, that's part of my problem here, man. When you got a household of 6 and everybody's on something, and it slows down my Wi-Fi. But no, to say the least, I completely understand where you're coming from. My son has literally, and Jerron can tell you, he has all of the tools and size that you would want. And he plays on the level to where you can be seen. And, I know we're talking about getting to the next level, but it hasn't triggered inside of it. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to say, what to do. I mean, we tell him everything we could possibly do. His mom and I, we both were college athletes. Competition is what we do, even within this household. And so it just has not transpired to him. And sometimes, we look at it like, are we wasting time? I know we've wasted money. And I'm not going to say wasted. It's the experience also that goes along with it. So I'm not going to say wasted. But at the same time, we've been out, we've traveled, throughout the U.S. to play different sports, and even now he just went into the ninth grade. He's a young 14-year-old, but there's still a lot that he has to learn, and we've talked about potentially just not doing sports, but yet maybe just doing a training, or maybe even just kind of somebody that can help from a mental standpoint as well as the physical standpoint, rather than just being in a sport. Because once you get in the sport, you get the coaches who some of these coaches all have different agendas, and like Jay, y'all all know, you competed as well. If you're not sometimes getting a look that you should be getting, and maybe you don't, out of 5 days out of the week, you practice hard 2 days out of the 5 days, you lose an opportunity. And so those are some of the things that we battle with him. And so I think it's huge that we kind of step back. Is this going to be for you? Because if it's not going to be for you, we're not going to push you to do it, although we see all the attributes. But at the same time, if it's not for you, let's just stop here. And just, if anything, like if you make your mind up, you want to work on this, you want to do this, we'll just get you some training rather than trying to go and compete and stuff. So it's tough, man. It's tough. And we I've coached, and we started an organization from basketball, and again, all the tools are there, but what's clicking in here and what's clicking in here aren't matching up to the body.
Yeah.
And so that it gets frustrating, but we got past the point of frustration. We don't go to coaches and be like, hey, you need to play him or this and that. Because, I mean, first of all, we can talk it all we want. You got to go practice. You got to go perform. Right. And so I'm not fixing to be a crutch to you and go and stand in front of a coach and tell him like, hey, how come my son ain't getting playing time? It may just be because, what can he do to get better?
Yeah.
Or what can he do to get playing time?
Yeah. I would say this, and I think this is important because the advice that I would give, let's say Ashley and J-Mo, is going to be different than what I would give you, Jason Washington, and that's because your kids are already at high school. And what I see for people who are already at high school, unless they part of another positive, and I can't speak to whatever the environment is at your high school, at his high school, but unless they are a part of another positive group of people, it's hard to pull them out of sports at high school, right? Like, you guys are doing that evaluation process, like, yo, is this something that we should do or not? But what I've seen for kids who drop out of sports into high school is that some of them can end up in other groups, right? And sociological studies will show you that the most important thing for high school kids is their social environment. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't care what mommy say, they don't care what daddy say, they only care about what their peers say about them. Okay, they still hear our voices in the back of their head. And Jay, I if you can hear, let me know. If you can't, say something. But they hear our voice in the back of their head, but it's more of a nag. They care about what their friends think. So if you pull them out of sports entering into high school, I think you run another risk. Okay, different than what I would say to J-Mo, who's just getting started like I am, and Ash, your daughters are just kind of getting started. For you guys, there's a book, and everyone I think should read it. There's two books that I want to highly recommend. One is
Put it in
Ron gotta have this recorded or something. He can send y'all the recording.
I mean, there is like a private chat if you didn't want to put it in there, but
come on, y'all killing me, man.
No, but I'm like, you can help the people watching, because the people watching not in the chat, so you could just say
it.
Like, you got real personal. Forget anybody watching. Let's just talk about us.
Range.
Range.
Y'all see that?
Do they have that in an audio book?
Yes.
Hold on, that's it by Epstein. Wait, what time out?
We just saw Epstein.
I was like, who's that by? Wait.
David Epstein.
That's
okay. Oh, okay. Because you put Epstein up there, you get a little questionable activities.
Oh, come on, man.
Well, I think as parents, it's our responsibility to not only
The scope of the conversation, all right? The scope of the conversation.
I think as parents, it's not only our responsibility to look at our children's physical attributes. Like I'm 6'2", my husband not short. I'm bigger than him though. My husband not short. My girls are not small at all. They didn't come into this world small. I had 10 and 12-pound babies. So
Yeah.
I knew they was not, there's no way they're gonna be little tiny fragile girls. My middle child was a 12-pound baby. She is tall. She is big. She's thick. She's solid. She only 6 years old, but you can hear her stomping through the house. She's big. Baby girl only wants to bake and cook and stuff like that. So I, as a parent, yeah, she's gonna be tall, but I know what her passions are already.
Mhm.
And so for parents to be like, well, they have the attributes, like I had the attributes. I just in the beginning, I just didn't have a desire, but because my desire to get away from my parents and whatever they was dealing with, the foolishness they like was so great. Basketball was, I'm getting away from my parents. Then it became a desire. But like, if you know, like Jason W, you saying like your son has the physical attributes, but he may not have the desire. Let's figure out what else you can do. I mean, being a tall dude is not like out of the ordinary. Being a big tall woman sometimes is like, so what do you do with that? And people have to put you into something. But like, find with them what do they desire to do the most outside of stupid kid stuff? Like my 6-year-old will watch baking for hours. I'm pretty sure she's clumsy. She'll break up everything in your house right now. I'm not gonna push basketball on her. She does not have it. My oldest child, she don't have the heart for it. She's soft. You know what I'm saying? Her feelings get hurt easy. Now see that baby girl, that 4-year-old, gangster grizzy. She picks up heavy stuff just cause she can. You know what I'm saying? Like she picked up a full-size watermelon at 3 and was like, "Mommy, look at me." And I was like, "Girl, that's something I know that she would flourish in. She would do well." But you gotta pay attention to that. Just because, yeah, I'm 6'2", I'm 200 pounds. I wasn't when I played ball, this baby weight. But it's like I was 6'2", I was 190, all muscle, right? Yeah, I flourished in basketball, but what else I'm good at? I write. You know, I can write stories. I can do voices. I was in theater. I was in all these things. So if I was pushed towards one thing or another, I probably would have developed a love for it. But because my dad was like ball, 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 and then it was a relationship builder for me and my dad, then that's what I went with. But if you just would have went off my physical attributes, then I just
let me say this, because like I'm not in Jason's household, but I've been around a large part of it, and I know that this is a conversation that they have with all their kids of like, what do you want to do? It's not one of those things like you need to go do this. It's what do you want to do? And if they want to play basketball, all right, cool. Here's an opportunity to go play basketball. Now, and I say this because I think about myself one day as a parent that I hope to be just like, hey, if you want to play, great. But then once you make a commitment that you want to play, I do have an expectation that you're going to give it your all. Like to me, that's just a life skill. Like if you say you want to do it, go hard, and then tell me when you don't want to. If you tell me tomorrow, I don't think I want to do this. My only question is like, do you feel like you gave it all you had? Yes. All right, cool. Then you don't have to do it. I think
let me go ahead, Jamie. Let Jamie speak, and I got something to say too.
I'm gonna go after you, bro. You got it.
No, I was just saying, like, I don't know who you're leaving it to.
Let me say this, because I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, Washington is talking about his kids' work ethic and his desire, right? And again, the advice I would give to him is different from you guys, because you guys have smaller kids like I do. This guy's already got his kids going in, and he sounds like, according to Dron, he's saying, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And the kid's saying, "I want to play sports. That's what I want to do." So if that's the case, I think what's important, and you got boys, dude. Hey, Washington, Jason. I don't even know if he can hear us. Hey,
yeah, I can hear you.
You have a backyard?
I do. It
Okay.
doesn't get used.
Okay. You got dirt in that backyard?
Grass.
Okay, but it's diggable, right? It's not turf.
Yeah.
So I think some of the hardest things to do for is to dig holes. And if mommy wants a garden, we're gonna dig a garden. You can get some like make the kids do hard work. Make your son do hard work. Like work where he got to sweat, where he got to start to because it's gonna change his mindset. It's gonna change his mind. Make him go do physical hard work. Do it together, right? Let's really build a garden. Let's go plant some stuff. Let's go make mommy put plants for mommy, whatever we're gonna do. But start making him do stuff that's harder. That's harder. That's harder. And it's gonna turn his mindset about this is work. And what's sweeter about that, if he's gonna do a garden or if he's gonna do flowers, when it's done and he actually sees the result of his work, it will change his mind about everything that he's doing. Right now, he doesn't see but he don't see the benefit of the basketball that he's doing right now or the football that he's doing right now. He don't really understand what you understand. But if you can give him small victories around your house, then you can and do stuff with him, then you can start to instill a certain mindset in that kid. It's so important for them to get that.
And
my experience, I make my kids, I say, y'all go home, plant a garden for your mom, go do some work. I make them do really hard work.
Yes, that was great advice. Because I do that with my little kids. Like we have a full-fledged garden in our yard. We have bell peppers, strawberries, all kinds of stuff. And it's hard work. And you gotta do it every day. And it's like when you start them off young like that, like it's not hard to get them to like put in that work and be consistent with it. I didn't have that, so I'm not very consistent. But
I understand.
That was great advice, man. It was great advice.
Yeah, I liked it too. I'm about to go build a garden for my wife.
I mean, then you know where your food come from. Like it's like an all around life lesson. Like if something happened to you, you fall on hard time, anything, at least you know how to grow something. You can feed yourself, you can feed your family. And it's work. And I mean, like everybody didn't have the dad I had. My daddy would get in the car and be like, let's run. He'd be driving behind me and he'll be like, I'm catching up, I'm gonna hit you. Let be running in New Orleans in the summertime where the humidity is ridiculous. It'd be like 90 degrees at 4:00 in the morning and we running. So
I mean, but you know what's funny? The interesting thing about what you're saying is that's a push that like pushed you there. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but that may have been his way of delivering the message of you of like how you gonna get out or what he thought you were supposed to do.
Mhm.
And one of the things I had to learn just growing up is that our parents 100% did the best they could to get us where we are. Like wherever they had to overcome to get there to get us to understand certain things. And I think that as we grow, and I guess I'm the only one here not a parent. So at the point when I become a parent, or as you guys become parents, you start looking. And to Jason's point, you paying attention to your kid, and you begin to see how to motivate that kid because the same motivation points are not going to work for that child. Like it's just not the same ingredients necessary to make you have that drive or that thought process. So, I definitely agree with the fact of you kind of touched on something that I always talk about is I always wonder how do I instill in my kids what was instilled in me, but like not make it, because I can never put my kids in an environment that I was in or see the things that I saw. But there's got to be a way that at this point right now, how do you teach hard work? How do you teach how to get like how I got through Hell Week, and I've used this to this day was thinking they can't make this last forever. That was what I figured out in high school. I was like, I don't care how much I got to run, how many times I got to go around this field, how many times I got to do burpees as they're called now, how many, it can't last forever. All I have to do is get through this time period and just find that space. And that's literally how I got through football practice. When I get frustrated now, like it can't last forever. No matter how down I get, it's up and down. So as low as the bottom may be, let's get there so we can get back up. Like that's just been my philosophy since high school. And I think it's helped me get through. So I definitely agree with the teaching them hard work through let's build a garden, let's do whatever. My dad used to try and get me outside to change, like work on a car. I was like, I'm not for that. Like I'm not working on cars. And I used to tell him and my brother to this day, My goal was to make enough money to pay the guy who wanted to go work on cars. Like that was my motivation. That was part of my motivation. Like I'm not into it, but somebody is, and they should get paid for it, and I'll be happy to pay them. And but that was my motivating factor. When I think about having kids, I think about, okay, how do I get my kids really to understand like a desire to want it? Like, because in my mind it's innate. Like you just grow up like I want it, but I know that that's not true. Like it got implanted in me somewhere. It's just probably so early on that I didn't think about it. It just kind of morphed itself into place. And again, I say Jason's always been a person of wise words, but I've carried that statement about how you move around and how people look at you since I was like 16, 15, 16 years old. Like I've carried that as a way of being, thinking like no matter what I'm doing, somebody is looking at me and they may look up to me. I don't know it. They may never say anything, but I have to think about that as I move around and how I do things. So I think that's the part that, as a parent, I don't know. You guys tell me, is that a struggle in itself? Like, to figure out how to help this little person get those tools?
Well, I think J-Mo was next. Yeah,
sorry.
I feel like, man, as a parent, man, it's our job, man. We gotta start young, like, for Jason, with our kids being young. Like right now, I feel like the best thing we can do is look and see what our kids have that passion for. And then as we grow up, we gotta put our kids in stuff that are built attributes for stuff that they already have a passion for. Because my kids, I want them to play football. Both two boys, I want both of them to play football. But as I sit and I, observe them, I know Junior like to run, track. Like he loved running. JoJo loved to fight, but I can't just go put them right in track, boxing right now, but find an attribute that they love, like, what I'm saying, and that they already have a desire for, and continually use that to put them in an environment where they'll be successful. Like if I know your passion is towards this, then okay, boom, let's take some, like you actually said, if a kid loves cooking, boom, let's take some cooking class, watch them cook. Let's go over some recipes that's, and like Jason said, hard work. When I was young, my pops had me cutting the yard, front, back, side of the house, on the side of the street, picking up trash that ain't even in our yard. I'm mad. I'm like, dang, man. When I get older, I'm never cutting the grass. Like, that's why but that was hard work, though. Waking up every Saturday, dedicated, like, hard work, And I think it's perfect that that Jason W, you having your kids going to high school. I think it's a perfect time for them to find themselves if they really want to pursue football. You know what I'm saying? Because now the truth is going to get exposed, You'll come to the light. Am I doing it for my friends, or am I doing it because I got it? You know what I'm saying? When they got to do that hell,
and
what I'm saying? And they get
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and that's the thing is So my whole thing is to never put pressure on anyone. I'm gonna only do as much for you as I see you wanting to do for yourself. And my kids get to the point where I'm from the country, and I grew up. I didn't get a chance to go compete with the other kids to go lift weights and go work out at the school because it was 17 miles away. So I just did whatever I could do. Mine was more the determination to just like, you know what, I can play with whoever's out there. That I wasn't afraid of none of y'all. And that's where my competitive nature came from. Now we try our best to give a better lifestyle. We try our best to give them a better opportunity.
Yeah.
And sometimes it seems like it backfires. I mean, because if you don't have anything that you want to like what's your why? I guess in a sense. Like if you don't understand or have what's your why, then everything kind of stops there. And that's what sometimes I think, like I said, my wife and I, we sometimes look at like, did we hinder them? Because we're hard on them. Again, we are hard on them. We're critical because this is what they say they want to do. It's not what we want them to do. Like, this is what you said you want to do. And so if you tell me you want to do this, I expect you to go out there and give you 100%. You've gotten the coaching, you've gotten the training, you've gotten the support from us. Like, what's keeping you?
The why, just like you said, it's the why. Like I said, I'm a comedian. There's a guy named Owen Smith. and he did this comedic like presentation about who's the GOAT. So he had LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, right? So in his mind, his reason was LeBron James was the GOAT over Michael Jordan, right? And everybody in the audience was like, what? And it was like, Michael Jordan had 2 parents. LeBron James came from a 1-parent household. His struggles were much greater than Michael Jordan's struggles. So at the end, he says LeBron James is the GOAT, which is 1 parent, and Michael Jordan is the GOAT with 2 parents. So I mean, it was supposed to be something, it was something comedic, but it's like if your reasoning for moving isn't strong enough, then you're not gonna move. You're not gonna move with urgency. My reasoning was I could not take another moment in what I was growing up in. It just wasn't, it was dysfunctional. So my why was I need to get out. I got to go. And it wasn't so much like I live in a hood, and it was just my house. What was happening inside my house. And it felt so heavy that when I went to go play ball, I have got my teeth knocked out. My nose has been broken. Like even then, it was just like, I ain't home. So, son, I mean, giving your kid a better life, I don't think hinders them in their determination to do what it is that they want to do.
Actually, let me jump in real quick because I think first of all, that's just a great point. But I do want to introduce a guest that came in. His ad is at New West Coast, but I know him as Eric Whitfield. He went to the high school that I went to and Jason went to, at least for me, for like half my freshman year, and then he transferred to a larger school and went on to play at UCLA. That's probably my least favorite thing about him as a Trojans fan. But anyway, he went to UCLA, played for Bruins, and and I wanted him to. Kind of
my bad. Talk to me, bro. My bad.
Oh, but I was just giving you an introduction. But
I'm gonna give you an introduction. Hold on, we want.
You breaking up, man.
Yeah, I don't.
We Diamond Trip. Diamond Trip.
It's probably that Westwood connection. I don't know what is going on. All right. So check this out.
What it is, this is enough shit coming through from this show when it blows up. Anyway. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying
is, it's not sponsored.
Eric did go to UCLA and ended up actually playing for the Redskins. So I know his experience honestly was different than a lot of ours there. So I wanted to bring it in from being recruited and his understanding. He came in a little late for us there, so we kind of got into a different kind of deeper conversation. But I guess I'll transfer this. Eric, let me
I've been listening to y'all the whole way. Y'all, I like what y'all doing. Just keep what y'all talking about. Jason's about to get off the phone. Baby girl went to New Mexico State.
You've been listening for a while.
Hey, bro,
you've been in it. I can't.
I'm just keeping it 100. Look, baby popped up in the middle between Jason at the bottom. Yeah, he been popping. Bro, been going to eat. I'm hungry as a mug, man. You could have sent your boy something. Eat anything. I've been listening to y'all whole conversation. Y'all on point. Keep rolling so I can catch up real quick. Apologize. It took me a minute.
No, it's okay.
I had a technical difficulty from network.
Okay. What I wanted to ask you a quick question. So where we are right now is we're talking about like the why. So you left our small school and went to Carson. Did you go to Carson or did you go to Banning?
I went to both.
Okay, well,
I checked into Banning. I wanted to be the last of the Whitfields to go to Banning.
Okay. So, well, I guess my question is,
hold on real quick before you say it. Jason, what's up, man? What y'all don't know about this conversation? My boy high school when I was 14 years old.
No, man.
Y'all both can't talk. I'm gonna be real with you. Y'all like it's not gonna work. It's not.
What's up, Jason?
Yo,
How you doing?
That's that Cali connection, man. They reunite.
yo, we got to keep it professional for Jerron, man. With me, we're gonna wrap offline. All right, we're gonna wrap offline. All
Good to see you, young man. Good to see you again, dude. I've been wondering how you and Oscar and all the homies was doing.
right,
Uh,
real for real.
long story short, bro, thank you for inviting me to your show. Thanks for inviting me to your show.
We're gonna double back.
You asked the question.
We're gonna have
You
to
asked
double
the
back.
question about. Yeah, you asked the question and anything. Just tap in just for 10 seconds. A kid that wants to be an athlete and go to the level, they need to really believe in themselves. It's not just somebody could say, "Hey, I could do you" or whatever. And then, unfortunately, we got COVID and everything else that's going on. So these kids really have to want it. Not say that they want it, but they have to be like, get up and work out. Um, when we was in school, I was writing to the schools, bro. After I'm gonna talk to y'all about Larson because it's funny that y'all mentioned it. I heard when y'all say Larson.
It was me.
Could go back when we was at Harbor Christian. Larson is a great guy. I keep swiping back and forth because my screen goes dark. But I put it up on there so I could see because I was, you know what I mean. But I was making something. I was working. Larson was fresh. He gave me an opportunity. We all went to, and I'm proud of you for your show. I was talking about this on another radio show. Even on like these kids telling you to do things, and the thing is, do you believe in yourself? You might be like, yeah, I want to do it. Are you getting up? What y'all don't know, like I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and run. I'm from Carson, California. I used to run from Los Angeles between Long Beach, Compton area. I used to run from Avalon to Wilmington every day. Put it in my socks at 4 a.m. in the morning. So to me, every day, homie, every day. Y'all didn't know that.
No,
Nobody
you're right.
knew that.
You right.
Nobody knew that. And I didn't used to see nobody, and people like after even I never say, oh, I made it, because never where I want to be. It's always like a potential, like I want to work hard. I want to do something, man. It's just been like some cool things. I'm just going to hit on your subject. I'm just going to cut it short. I used to run early in the morning. I didn't see nobody out there running with me. I used to run 4 miles
That's
total.
sad, man.
4 miles. So to put a dollar in my sock, I'm a young kid, so I don't have a job, nothing like that. But it was just for the mission. I would get up at 4 a.m. when my parents wake up. At that time, they retired now, thank God. They doing well. About family, it's about your kids, doing all that and all this stuff on. And the time it was already hard then, so it's really hard now. So it's like, wow, how can I motivate it? Like, are you motivated to do this? Or can you inspire yourself to do this? I'm gonna hit on it later. Nowadays, these kids don't know they have the internet like how we're talking now. It's pretty fresh. I'm proud of y'all. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, it goes back where Apple in the 80s, man, it was just a Apple computer. It was just black and green. I never checked not one of my UCLA emails, unfortunately, because it could have been a great thing besides the mail. It was before its time at the time. We ain't about MySpace, but we going to the running. Who's willing to wake up early in the morning when they have no programs right now? The schools are closed. Nobody's going to get up early in the morning. My screen blacked out.
So
I
let me.
think what you're touching on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gerard. I think what you're touching on right now is one of the biggest drivers for kids to even put themselves in a position to get there. It's that the desire, the discipline, and the dedication to do stuff like what you're saying. Not many people get up that time in the morning, and you weren't told to. You know, That's sometimes our biggest thing is we don't want to have to always tell you to do, because if we're having to tell you to do something, that means you don't want to do it yourself.
Yeah, let me say
Yeah,
this.
I keep looking back because my screen is black, so forgive me, y'all. Sorry about that.
You good. Let me say this real quick, right? Because I
I
feel as
appreciate
though
that.
being a coach with high school kids, I might be a little bit closer to the situation than some of you guys are. And so all of us are talking about motivation. Evaluate your own motivation, right? Whether it's you wanted to get out of your household because you didn't have a good home life, you wanted to get out of the neighborhood. Well, when we strive to have our kids have a better life, and a lot of us, it sounds like most of us have, husband and wife at home. So great, our kids are already better off than some of us were growing up. Okay, they're not gonna have that same motivation. But listen to your motivation, guys. My motivation was girls. Okay, but once I got girls, then what? Your motivation is get out of your house. Once you got out of your house, then what? Your motivation is get out of your neighborhood. Once you get out of your neighborhood, then what? And I think it's important right now is to start to talk, like I said, talk with these kids, not at them, but talk with them about, hey, one day you're going to be 40 years old. And at 40 years old, what would you like your life to look like? So it's not, their motivation is not temporal. See, because when Ashley, I appreciate your candor earlier. You said, I was consistent, but I don't know how consistent I am right now. And I think that speaks to a lot of us, myself included, because I've already reached my motive. I already reached my goal. Right? I'm out of my neighborhood. I got a wife. I've already reached it. Now what? Now you got to reorganize your goals. But if your goal from the beginning was a 20-year, 30-year, 40-year goal, then that being the case, then you could talk to your kid about that. So Washington, when I'm listening to you and your kid doesn't have his why yet, why don't you ask your kid what he wants his life to look like at 40 years old? And then what's the best route that he could take to get there? And if you can explain to him that he can do this academically, he can do this athletically, use a business. You think about all the celebrities and all the people that we know. They had a business and then they went and bought another business, right? Kanye West is a rapper. Now he's trying to do clothes. Jay-Z was a rapper. Now he's trying to do, he got clubs and all Mark Cuban. He's a software guy. Now he owns the Dallas Mavericks. You got to figure out what you going to do to get you to where you want to be next. But those are 20, 30, 40-year goals. We can't relate to these kids because we have created a better life for them. They got two parents at home. Their why is not in their face. Your why was in your face every day. Their why is not. So help them to imagine a great point that's longer and bigger than them. I think that's where you got to start. Start talking to him about 20, 30, 40 years. When you daddy's age, what's it going to be like for you? And you got to sit on that conversation weeks at a time and say, okay, what are we going to do? How can I help you right now? You got 4 more years before you got to figure out if you're going to go to college or not. Is that in line with your goal? And what can I help you do today for you to be where you need to be at 40 years old? Because the other thing I think we find out is you start doing research about business people, their parents handed over a little something to them. Now, all of us ain't going to be in a position where we can hand over something to them so they can go start a business. Like, our current president, whose dad handed over to him a business.
But you said something right. It's not all about sports. You have to have a plan. See, sometimes I said to a young kid recently, he was like, "Nah, man, if you got a plan B, you're not serious about plan A." I was like, "Nah, like I did this already. Like you really should prepare for yourself. It's not just about sports. If you catch on the little nuggets, and man, I'm proud of you. It's about you and what do you want to do? Are you going to be willing to put the work in? Like a lot of times, like." You know how hard it was early in the morning. Come on, man. Come on, that and even just where we came from. I was happy our parents put us where we went to high school, junior high school. Yeah. I was there before y'all went there.
Later,
I saw they changed my age. Say I was 14. I'm sorry, I was 14. I graduated a year early.
I mean, when it comes to like looking at things long term, like me, it was a lot for me to look down the road. Like even when I was in college, and I had professors saying, "Where you want to be in 5 years?" and I'm like, "That I don't know what I'm eating tonight." Like you asking a lot But I see what you mean. Like you said, Jason Stewart, like my why was always in my face. And for our kids, like I think the difficulties that they are facing is different because I have littles, but watching my daughter struggle as someone who's barely literate because she's going into the first grade, having a teacher say, type this in the chat, and then you got books right here and you're trying to type something and you're trying to, I didn't have to experience that in the first grade. That was just ridiculous to me, you know, and watching my child struggle and cry every day. But that's their struggles. That's not something we had to do. But as far as like, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, Agnew West Coast, but he was saying like somebody told him, if you have a plan B, you're not serious about plan A. Well, my plan A was to go through college and play in the WNBA. If somebody's sitting there telling me my whole knee has to be redone in order for me to play at that level, I just wasn't willing to do that to my body. You know what I'm saying? So like you have to.
I heard you talking about your knees. I heard you was talking about your knees earlier. Until you said your knees.
They was already messed up because playing ball, but then I got pregnant on them 3 times, and you know, we can get big. We get big.
I like you, man. Keep it real. That's right. But speak on your thing. Speak on it, though.
I think I think my advantage is being a woman. And being a woman and trying to navigate these spaces, you work extra hard to get half of the benefit that you guys get. So when as a mother, my girls are watching me as a mom. I get up every morning. I make sure they're straight. I go to school. I teach other people's kids. I come home. I cook dinner. I do whatever else needs to be done. And my girls are watching me do it. And I go work out. I'll shoot around a little bit. I deal with the little neighborhood kids. I talk to little boys in the neighborhood and tell them that they jumping trash. And I'll shoot nothing but net in a dress. And they be like, oh, she really can play. But the example as a parent is, I think, is greater than anything, any sport, anything that you could, any club, any training. And the example you said as a parent, my daddy got up with me and trained me. That meant that I meant something to him. What I wanted to do meant something to him. And it was more than just do it. It was, I'll do it with you. I'm going to show you. I'll take the time.
I had a briefing. Come here real quick. Let my homeboy see. Hey, Jay, I just want you to see this little. Boy. Nah,
Hey.
He's 11 years old, though, bro. Look, he trying to grab his phone. Look. Hold on. He sound like hold on. Come here.
He got his phone. He came what he came. He got what he came for.
But look. I just want you to see how he is turned 11. And he a baller. Look, hold up. His mom went to Long Beach Poly with Uncle Snoop and them, cuz with saw them with his wife. Thank you. And you ain't gonna close the studio door.
Hey guys, I would like to thank you all for your advice, your experiences. I am deprived of sleep and sanity, and I'm gonna find it in a pillow or something. I'm so tired. You are a wise man, and hopefully God says the same. You are around when my little Frankie Rose come up. She's gonna need somebody. I'm scared of her. She is scary. She's a scary little child. So I'm gonna just go ahead and ship her your way. And the rest of y'all take care. Thank you, Coase.
Thanks, Ashley. I will.
I always feel Ashley, I mean, Jerron, you got my permission. Anybody want to reach out to me, obviously they can, and I'm happy to stay connected with all of you guys. I do think it's getting late. I know I gotta get up super early too. Hey, Jay Washington, if you want to talk some other time, man, we'll do that too.
I worked that out
for sure. We got to catch up for sure. And Ashley, I need to know where I can find your comedy so I can start laughing myself.
Okay, well, I'm about to put all my stuff in the chat, and I hope that y'all do it too, cause y'all seem like cool people.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I know everybody here, so literally, if I'm
Google,
I don't know
right now just to get on this joint. Hey, let me hear from you too, man. Let's do this again, okay?
Hey, check it out real quick, bro.
And you can find me on YouTube.
All right, well,
I just want to let y'all know,
man, because I don't even know where the chat is, man. I don't know.
It's on the side or whatever.
Let's do this.
Press the button, bro.
You got
I just want to let y'all know I was hearing y'all, but it's an echo on the phone. Y'all did great. I'm just telling y'all real stuff. I'm telling y'all, I interview.
Give my
y'all
info,
not listening,
man. Let's all rap.
Radio stuff, bro, and like television stuff, been breaking news and stuff, and I'm proud of y'all. But what y'all need to do, not just this one time, do an episode 1, 2, and you keep it going, because we could pull up on people like when we training and things for the kids in the communities. One thing before y'all go, you ask the question. When we was all young, homie, I was 15 years old. These kids got the internet. I gotta tell y'all this. Y'all had that talk, because I gotta get back to production and I gotta roll. I love y'all, but let me tell you, kids nowadays could look up on the phone. They could look up on the phone and be like, "Oh, what's the number to UCLA?" The number to UCLA's assistant head coach is 310-206-6637. I've always remembered that since I was 16 years old, 15. That's Terry Donahue, last defensive back that came out of there. Had a chance to go. I backed up Deion Sanders, Champ Bailey, Darrell Green. At the end of this interview, I'm gonna give you a nugget before we hang up.
We close.
Look, I used to write, and when I was in the 6th grade, we had an assignment. We had to all run to the White House. We had to the White House at Leapwell Elementary in Carson, California. We wrote to the White House to get a copy of the Constitution. They sent it to us. I was like, damn, if they could send me that, I could write to anybody. They're going to send me something. So when I got as an adult to Banning at that point, after where we junior high school in Harbor, you know, Harbor and it turned the Gateway, you know, and I'm proud of y'all. So I'm telling you something. So you could call the school. That number, the kid and the father, the parent could call any college recruited. The school, the colleges, it's a certain amount of time they could call a parent or a player. It'll be what you call legal recruiting for NCAA. So, but you could call as a parent and be like, hey, I want to get my kid recruited. I have a 3 GPA, 6'2". My name is Eric Woodfield. I have a GPA of such and such. Can you send a questionnaire? I'm inquiring information about sports scholarship. That was my letter that I wrote to all the colleges. Michigan, Arizona State, New Mexico. I took to the Lobos. I took a trip there. It was the funnest trip. Went to Kansas, recruited with Paul Pierce, played ball with Baron Davis, played ball with all these, you know what I'm saying? Bibby, Jason Stewart, fresh self when he was 14 years old, looking the same. You know what I'm saying? And you just, you can I'm inquiring information about sports. Call the athletic department. That's what a kid should do nowadays. Then you're gonna be on nowadays too. Have your family turn the phone sideways. Don't turn it up and down like
That's
that.
An important tip.
Turn it sideways.
A very important tip.
All right. I love you guys.
Love you, Jay. I hit you up. But that's how you get. I just want to say real quick in the nugget. Jay, I'm going to holler at you, man. Tell Oscar I said what's up and Adam.
Will do.
Thank you guys all for coming. You know, one day I'm going to figure out how to make a happy hour an hour. But until that time comes, I appreciate you guys giving me the time that you give me. No, Eric, we'll get back up because, you know, I definitely want to get a chance to get your story out and really talk about it. But again, I appreciate everybody taking the time.
Man, but I'm happy that you hit me up, man. Sorry, y'all.
No, we'll get up.
Y'all be cool.
All right. Have a good one.
You have a good one, bro.
Peace.
Stay up.